All right, while we're waiting for everybody and before we get started, just make sure if you're somebody who likes to download the PowerPoint slides, they're up on week 10, so you can go get those now. There's also a document you're going to need called the National Health Education Standards Performance Indicators. They're both up on week 10, so if you want to download those, go ahead and do that now. You're going to need them. We will have a few breakout activities today, so those will be the documents that you will need. So go ahead up on our D2L and pull those documents now. Brandon, did you get a haircut?
Yeah, I did.
Looks good.
Yeah,
Very
super,
nice.
yeah, thank you.
What do you say was super long?
Yeah, the top was getting really long, so I had to cut it up a little bit.
Very nice. Very nice. Shane and is that Chris? I'm gonna need your cameras if you're here. Good morning, Isaac, Nate. Hi, Sierra. Noah, you're here. Travis, Dylan, Alicia, Ethan, nice. Just to point out, if anybody needs a little bit of help with the lesson plan, the phys ed lesson plans, I'm going to be going over them a little bit more detail after class today. So if you want to stick around and get a little bit of help with the phys ed lesson plans, I'm absolutely happy to help you with any of that. Alrighty, just so that you know, if you want to stick around, I'm happy to help. All right, so you should have those documents in front of you now. You have the PowerPoint slides and the National Health Education Standards, those performance indicators. As I mentioned, we're going to be needing both of those today. We're going to do a last minute check and see if anybody is waiting in our waiting room, and I think not. So a little housekeeping. I just want to address this. I know I had a few emails from individuals, so I want to make sure that you're getting my emails. So I sent out 2 emails through D2L this past week, and they were about the lesson plan and the videos and such. So if you notice, I had the videos were originally on YouTube, and instead I took them off YouTube and kept them only embedded them through D2L. So I sent several emails about that so that you would know when you were completing your assignments. But not, I got a lot of emails with confusion, so that's telling me you're not getting my emails. So did anybody get my emails about the videos? Can you just shake your head so I can see? So you got emails about the videos I sent. If you have a thumbs down or you're saying no, you did not get my emails, let's just talk about something quick. So what I want you to do is go into your, you can do this after class, or you can stay with me after class so we can try to work through it. But basically it's probably that my email is getting sent to your spam or your other folder. So make sure that you go and check in your other folder or your spam, and you can search my name or just look for the email there. Again, there was 2 emails. So you want to make sure that you're getting those. So if you do find it in the other folder or you find it in your spam, a lot of times you can, within that email, when you finally open it, you can click on a little toggle button that says create a rule. And that rule would be that it always sends an email from me to your inbox. So if that's the case, if that's happening, if you did not get my emails, then that means you've also probably not been getting my emails through the whole entire semester. So maybe you have not been privy to information I've been sending out, and I send out quite a few emails. So if I was you, I would definitely make sure that you're getting my emails, specifically the ones that are titled Hello Class, and then I write a bunch of information, because those are the ones I send out through D2L. And if you're not getting them, just maybe stick around after class so we can figure this out, because you're going to want to make sure that you're getting those. And I'm surprised that we haven't had issues so far. All right, sound good? Shake your head. Cool, thank you so much, I appreciate it. All right, so listen, I'm really upset because I created this awesome poll for us to use in Zoom today with a bunch of questions for review. And guess what I did? I created them in the wrong Zoom class. So that's not gonna help us at all. All right. So what we're gonna do is I do wanna review some of the content that we went over last class, and specifically some content that I found to be a little bit inaccurate in our video analysis. Alrighty, so let's start with that. So the way this is gonna go, why don't we do the chat feature? Make sure that so open up the chat feature and chat only to me. Okay, so again, this will be our participation points. Chat only to me, make sure it's privately only to me. And I'm gonna ask you a question. And after that question, I want you to type the response, all right? So if this was a poll, it would have the question would be there so that you could read it, and then the response would be multiple choice. But again, I created that in the wrong class, and I have no idea how to import it to this class. So here we go. All right, so question number 1. So get ready to chat. Again, make sure it's private, it's only to me. These next 3 questions that I'm gonna ask you are about feedback, okay, feedback. So this type of feedback is typically very, it can be positive or negative. It can be positive or negative feedback. And it's usually very, very non-specific. So it's usually not really referring to skill cues or critical elements. It's usually referring to, it's an overarching type of feedback. It's really not related to the skill in any type of manner. So you're not really telling somebody what they're doing right, and you're not really telling them what they're doing wrong. All right, so go ahead and type in what type of feedback. Your 3 options are general feedback, specific feedback, and corrective feedback. And I'm going to give us a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Any last minute people? All right, so for the most part, everybody got that right. General feedback. So general feedback is, there's no skill cues menu, general feedback. Somebody pop on and tell me what a really common, or a few common general feedback statements are. Somebody pop on and tell me. What are some general comments? General feedback. Good job. Yep, who was that?
Ryan.
Ryan, thank you. Yep, so good job. Good job is one. What's another one? General.
Nice throw.
Nice throw. Okay, nice throw. That could work. That could work. Nice throw. Good job, Brandon. I heard a female's voice. Who popped on?
Me.
Sierra, what'd you say?
I said excellent.
Excellent. Excellent. Good. Excellent. So tell me this. When somebody says good job or excellent or nice throw, do you know specifically what you did right?
No.
No, you know that you're doing something right, but you don't know what you're actually specifically doing right in regard to that skill, right? So tell me this, here's our next question. Question number 2. This type of feedback is typically delivered to help correct an error in skill execution, okay? So it's typically delivered to help fix an error related to a skill execution. So if you notice a student was doing something wrong with their skill, you would give this type of feedback. So our options, general feedback, specific feedback, corrective feedback. Which one? Get those answers in there. 5, 4, 3, 2. Awesome. Corrective feedback. So if somebody's doing something wrong, you might give them some cues relating specifically to those critical elements of the skill in order to improve what they're doing wrong. Does somebody want to pop on and give me a specific example of what a corrective feedback statement might look like or sound like?
You could say, nice job on that throw, but make sure you follow through next time.
Dom, awesome. So make sure that you follow through next time. Make sure that you follow through. So he had noticed that in my throw, perhaps I was stopping here and I wasn't following through with my throw. So he wants me to correct that part. They follow through. Awesome. So So Dom, actually, let's talk about something. The beginning of your statement, he said, I really like how you are, what'd you say, Dom?
Oh, I just said nice throw, I believe.
Okay, nice throw. So it's pretty
Yeah.
general, but then, yeah, coming
Yeah.
through with the follow through. Nice. What's another one? What's another one? So it can be throw related, or, I mean, it can be throw related since it's, you know, we watched that throwing video.
I was actually thinking like batting, like if you're watching someone bat and their knuckles weren't together and you walk up to them and you kind of just said like, hey, just make sure that you have fucking knuckles together. You know what I mean? Like something.
Awesome. Oh, right. No, that's perfect, Mark. So he's saying striking with a bat, right? So you know how you want your knuckles together? So maybe he came up and a kid, you know, was holding it, you know, like this, right? And they're trying to swing. And he's like, all right, you know, Jennifer, let's try to make sure that those knuckles are aligned, you know, so that when, you know, when you're striking. So he's correcting the knuckles, which is the part of that grip of the strike. Awesome job, Mark. Perfect. Yep. So I like how you were able to relate it to a skill that we haven't even really observed. Awesome. So that's the corrective. So the last question to you regarding feedback, which type of feedback is this one where you are, it typically always starts with, I really like the way you, I really like the way you. So basically with this one, you are, so before we rush through, it is positive. It's usually positive, but it's usually telling a student specifically what they're doing right. Okay, so they're using the critical elements of the skill. So you're using those critical elements, and then, but it's more related to specifically what they're doing correct or right. So what type of feedback is this? Is it general? Is it corrective? Is it specific? I really like the way you. Five, four. I really like the way you're aligning those knuckles before you swing. I really like the way that you're following through with that throw. Perfect, specific. So specific to the critical elements. So for the majority of us got that one right as well. If you're somebody who got those a little bit mixed up on our video analysis assignment, I did, I kind of sent a little blurb to you in the feedback part of when I was grading those assignments to kind of help you just jog your memory. So make sure that we have those right, because that's gonna be really important when it comes to our teaching episodes in you know, your next few classes.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Travis.
What category of feedback would it be if the feedback is like motivational? Like, for example, you're doing some kind of exercise and it's nearing the end, you say something like finish strong or keep up the pace or stuff like that. Is that general, corrective, or specific? Or is that just motivation, not even feedback?
Well, so I mean, it can be both. I would say, does anybody want to chime in and take a guess maybe of which one? So finish strong, you're in the end of a workout. Finish strong.
Sounds general to me.
Right. So Travis, I'm going to go with you on that. So it really depends. There's a whole bunch of different classifications of feedback. Every textbook that you buy kind of calls them something different. So for me, that was always the bottom. Remember when we did that feedback sandwich like a long time ago, and that on that, remember I drew that hamburger bun, and on the bottom for me, that motivational piece was like that finishing, you know, that finishing piece of that feedback sandwich. But for me, yeah, so that sounds more general, just like you said. It's a pretty general, it's a class motivator. The feedback, does anybody remember what types of feedback we want to be delivering most often? Which two types of feedback do we want to deliver most often? Which ones are better to help a student learn skills?
Specific and corrective.
Specific and corrective. Yeah, Carolyn. Was it Ryan? Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Spot on. Nice job. So yeah, specific, because again, you're mentioning those critical elements, and then corrective. So you're again mentioning the critical elements so that students can improve on those skills. Perfect. So if you noticed, for those of you who watched the video analysis, I want to say it's video analysis 2 or is it the lesson plan 2? The teacher was delivering just mostly general feedback. Good job, good job, good job, excellent, nice. But the students didn't know what they really needed to improve on. So maybe that's something you can pick up on. All right, so I wanted to review that. And the last thing I wanted to review was just a few more behavior management strategies. So we are not done. I'm going to, with the class here with you, I'm going to throw out some class management and behavior management strategies, just examples. And I want you to tell me which of those examples I'm referring to. So what I'm going to do here is actually share my screen because I have the list pulled up. So can you see my options here? Shake your head if you can see my PowerPoint slide. Yeah, perfect. I'm going to throw it into presentation so you can see. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of one of these. And I want you in the chat function to report to me which one you think it is that I'm demonstrating. Alrighty. So here we go. Mark, I really like the way that you're paying so close attention to the screen and typing your responses. Mark, I really like the way you're paying such close attention and typing your responses. So again, these are behavior management strategies, so follow the list on the screen. Mark, I really like the way that you, Mark's like, yeah, I get it. Mark, I really like the way that you're paying such close attention and typing your responses. 5, 4, 3, 3, 3, finish up, 2, 1. Awesome. So actually you were right. There's two. There's actually two, right? So pinpointing, like you, a bunch of you had written, but then also catching being good. So yes, I was catching Mark being good. So Mark is like, yes, awesome. That's go me. I'm doing the right thing. I'm super motivated now because I'm going to keep participating because the teacher is noticing that I'm doing the right thing. Okay. That specific strategy as well that I was using was pinpointing, specifically by mentioning Mark's name, right? Because then somebody who may have been a little bit off task might go, oh, Mark's getting, you know, he's getting teachers noticing that he's paying attention and doing the right thing. So let me see what I need to do. So now everyone, you know, looks over to see what Mark is doing and they want to follow along. Make sure that they're doing the right thing as well. Okay, so that was pinpointing and catching being good. So that was kind of a good one. You got me there. All right, so tell me this. What is the strategy called when the teacher ensures that they are always in full view of all their students? They are always facing their students. This is typically a teacher positioning type of thing. But again, you're making sure that you're never, that your students are never not in your view, that you can always see all of your students. Again, it has something to do with how the teacher positions themselves. So go ahead and throw those in there. What is that when the teacher is making sure that their students are always in their view? It has to do with how the student is, or how the teacher is walking around. 3, 2. I didn't even put that one on here. And 1. Okay, awesome. So back to the wall, right? So back to the wall. So again, when you're in the gymnasium, you're making sure that you are always facing your students and that they're always in your view. If your back is to the students, you have no idea what's going on behind you. You have no idea what's going on behind you. So that one was back to the wall, back to the wall. So again, it's a teacher positioning strategy. Mark, you had actually, not to call on you again, Mark, but you had a good one that I forgot to actually throw on this list. So Mark, go ahead and describe, Mark, why don't you take over? So now again, everyone's gonna guess, throw it into chat to me, Mark, I'm putting you on the spot here. Describe what this one is, because we talked about this last class, so I know that you know it. What does this look like in a class? So Mark's gonna give us the next question. Go ahead, Mark.
So pretty much like when you're walking around the classroom and you're keeping an eye on everyone, and then if you see someone doing something that they maybe they're off task, so you walk over to them, but then you're keeping an eye on like the rest of the class.
So clarify here, are you saying something to these students or not saying anything to these students?
You're
Mark,
partially.
look at me.
No. No, you're not saying anything. You're just walking around.
Okay, so everyone, this one's not on the list. It's not on the list. So we're really jogging your memory here. It's 2 words. It's 2 words. It starts with a P and then a C. A P and then a C. Okay, so it's another, like the teacher kind of, they move their body really close to somebody who might be a little bit off task just to see if that student is like, oh geez, the teacher's here. I got to get back on task. A P and then a C. Good job, Dom. Yep, a bunch of you are getting it. Yep, bunch of you are having it. This one's hard because it's not on the list. P and then C. Yeah, we're getting it. Close. Nate, really close. It's literally a synonym for both of the words that you used. Three, 2, it's okay if you don't get this one. 2, 1. Proximity control. Proximity control. You got it once I gave you the C. So proximity control. Again, you move yourself closer to those individuals who might be a little bit off task, and you help them kind of get back in gear. So nice job with that. Position control was a good one. It's really that's just 2 synonyms for those 2 words. So let me do one more that's on this list here. So again, the list is on the PowerPoint. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that one. I appreciate it. What is this one? So imagine I'm teaching and the majority of us are maybe getting a little bit off task, probably getting a little bit chatty. Usually, as we know, when that's the case, it's probably an issue with the instruction, or the task may be too boring. Maybe the students, they're just getting bored. They need a new challenge. So the majority of the class is getting off task, maybe a little chatty, maybe they're a little bored. And instead of addressing, 9 out of the 10 students, I sit everybody down. Everybody bring it in, take a knee, take a seat. We're gonna chat for a second. What I'm noticing is there's a lot of people chatting. There's a lot of little side conversations. It's disrespectful, it's off task, and I really need us to get back on task. And the key here as well is you just sit there and you wait for those students to stop whatever behavior that they're doing that they shouldn't be doing, those side conversations. Which one is this? Go ahead and type that in that chat. 5, 4, good job. Yep. 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. Yep. So that's exactly right. A lot of you, everybody got this one right. Group awareness and wait time. Keep in mind as well with the group awareness and wait time, this can also look different. Okay. And the way it would look different is, I'm sure I mentioned this last class. I know that we've all been in this situation where, we're in the gymnasium, the whole class is there, and there's some people talking, a bunch of people talking. But rather than saying anything, imagine the teacher was giving instruction, right? And most people are paying attention. There's a few people in the back that are talking, and the teacher just stops and stands like this, right? Just waits. Have you seen this? Shake your head. They're just looking at those students like, are you done? Are you done talking? And it kind of gets them back. So that's really that focusing on that wait time, right? So making sure that the teacher waits for those students to stop, doing their off-task behavior, get them back on task, and then you regroup and you move together as an entire class. So that's what that can also look like. Very effective because it shows that you mean what you say. Alrighty. So thank you for the participation, everybody, through this beginning piece. A few of these other elements we will readdress and review as needed, especially after I watch those video analysis that you are completing. So tell me, what is the due date on our video analysis 2 assignment?
Next week.
Next week. Guess what? That was a mistake on my part. I had meant for us to have that assigned for today, but I put November 3rd on. So if you have not completed your video analysis 2, which was going through that behavior management, then, and I think it was the dribbling lesson. So that's okay. You have a little bit more time. Okay, so you have till next week. So again, if I see any, if I need to redirect us on any of those behavior management strategies, we'll do that again next week. Alrighty, sound good? Shake your head. Cool. All right, so for today, the focus for today is to move on to effective programming and instruction in health education. I'm going to fix up my screen here. There we go. All right, so health education, as you know, you in Pennsylvania are certified for health and physical education. So across your program here, you're gonna have a bunch of classes that are directed for physical education. And then they're also gonna be content related for health education, okay? So you're gonna take a bunch of classes that will provide you the instruction, the content knowledge that you need to teach physical education, but also health education. And personally, health education was one of my favorite subjects or content areas to teach because you really get to see your students in a different light. So you really get to see them in an amazing setting in the physical education, in the gymnasium, where you get to see them performing and engaging. But in the classroom, they have sometimes a little bit of a different demeanor, which is really kind of cool because it really allows you to develop like a different type of relationship with your students, which is really rewarding, and it's really nice. So the health education is a really fun time. It's a really fun content to teach because it does allow you to really get that relationship with your students. A lot of the planning is very similar, and I'm hoping that the way that we teach health now, or that we learn to teach health, is maybe a little bit different than what you went through when you went through health. And I don't know this, we'll see once we get moving, but I'm wondering if it might look a little bit different now than it did when you went through your health programs. All right, so let's just go through some basic information here then, with health education defined. So what is health education? We are gonna teach about the physical body, the mental well-being, emotional health, and then social health. And these elements, as you remember, if you remember back from week 2, have to do with that overall wellness wheel, whereas all the different dimensions of health. So essentially, during your health education, you'll target all the different dimensions of health, even more so maybe than just these 4. It typically motivates students to improve and maintain their health, prevent disease, reduce risky behaviors. Specifically right now with the coronavirus and everything going on, I know health education is really important. And I know that people being able to utilize their health education and utilize their skills that they have in order to maintain and prevent disease, or maintain their health and prevent disease, is really, really important. So I know health education right now is really doing a lot to try to keep people healthy and safe. Ryan, do you have a question? Go ahead.
We did, because of the virus, we did an extra semester of health last year. So we lost our gym the 4th quarter.
You lost your physical education?
Yeah, like the last quarter of our senior year. So we did an extra quarter of health. I don't even know how they added stuff, but they did.
Yeah, so what did you learn about?
Like, they just did like a review session of like everything we did over like the 4 years, other than like drivers that they didn't do.
Okay, so were they talking specifically about the coronavirus and everything? Or, you're
Not at
saying
all.
because you were online. Is that
Yeah,
why?
because we're online.
Okay, right. So it's easier to teach health online, right, than it is physical education. Okay, that makes sense, right? So they just reviewed the content from previous health, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Did anybody else have that same situation where maybe you spent more time in health education when you were online for the spring? Shake your head, yes, no? Nice, well, thank you, Ryan. Health education as well, the curriculum and instruction, it helps students to learn the skills that they need to make healthy choices throughout their entire lifetime. And this is a term that I really want you to put into your memory. It's skills-based health, okay? Skills-based health. So not anymore are we just teaching content. We don't just teach about drugs and alcohol and, you know, unsafe behaviors or sexual education. we teach about the skills needed to overcome different situations within those content areas. So the skills that somebody needs to exhibit in order to be a healthier person, make healthier choices, maintain their health, prevent disease, things like that. So this is where I'm wondering if this type of health education is going to look different than maybe what you went through, where we hope that you don't just sit and lecture anymore with health. We hope that as health education teachers, you're not just lecturing during that time in the classroom, but instead that you have your students up and moving and practicing these skills and working through situations and scenarios so that they're preparing themselves for the outside world when they actually need to make these types of decisions, or make these choices and things like that. Okay, so that skills-based health is really important. Some core principles relating to health education. It's really important for the overall school curriculum. So not only is it important for health and physical education, but for the entire school curriculum. So again, if we know if every student is healthy or has the ability to make healthy choices, it's going to make them a better person in the whole entire school as a whole, rather than just in our classroom. Best practice is that we have certified or highly trained health education teachers. And as we mentioned in Pennsylvania, you will be certified in health and physical education, so you can teach both subjects. Different states are a little bit different with that. So I think you're really lucky to be in Pennsylvania and getting your teacher certification in Pennsylvania so that you have that certification in both areas. Shape America, our national organization, says that in K through 12, between K through 12, every single year, the students should have at least 60 hours of health education. Shake your head. Was that the case in your school? Did you get at least 60 hours, you think, of health ed every single year? Sometimes, not always, right? So again, we know the different states and different states and different school districts, it might look different, but that is the recommendation from our national organization. The instruction in health education is student-centered, so we make sure that we focus on the students, that the students are actively engaged in that content and they're really trying. We give them situations and learning environments that they have the ability to really work through problems, health-related problems, rather than, again, like I said, just that lecture, which is really teacher-centered. So we really want to change our mind frame in the teaching so that the students are completely engaged, the students are working through health-related problems and really practicing those skills. So that's where we bring in that skills-based health education. And then health education, again, it engages many aspects of the school and the community at large. So it's a really collaborative type environment. We want to make sure that what we're teaching in our health education classrooms is related to what's actually happening in our community and within our school systems, that everything is kind of aligned and they see that they can utilize these skills outside of our classroom. So, when you teach a little bit about nutrition, they realize they can make healthy choices in the cafeteria at lunchtime. When you talk about decision-making and problem solving, that they know that they can actually use those skills outside of school when they're working with their peers. So this health education is really all encompassing of helping our students as a whole. So regarding to the curriculum, so again, like our curriculum is that overall plan of what we plan to teach within this content area, this being health education. We teach functional health information, which is essential knowledge, and typically, like we know in physical education, that's relative to the cognitive domain, right? So again, our thinking, we're measuring knowledge in our thinking. Functional health information, this cognitive domain, is all up in our brain. Okay, somebody pop on. How do we measure something in the cognitive domain? So remember our assessments. How do you measure something in the cognitive domain?
Like have them explain how to do it.
Okay, so verbally explaining something, right? They can verbally explain. Thank you, Alicia. Yep. What's another way? How can you measure what's going on in my brain? Carolyn, what are you going to say?
I was just going to say you could have them like write it down or list the different things that you want them to do.
Right, exactly. So that's how you can get into my brain. Yeah, so maybe write something down or list something. Exactly. Can you always see what's going on in my brain? Shake your head. Can you see the knowledge I have in here? Can you sometimes see that I know something because I'm doing something? Like, so if I were to do some type of behavior, you know, in some type of way, you might be able to see that I know the right way to do it, because obviously I have to know it before I can do it. So to dribble a basketball, right? I can dribble a basketball correctly. Usually I also need to know how to dribble a basketball in order to do it right, but not always the case. And we want to measure, again, that the person can do the skill, but then also can tell me that they know how to do the skill. So health education is going to be kind of the same, where you're measuring the actual skill, but this cognitive piece I'm talking about, you're measuring that they know, that they really know, you know, what you're talking about with this essential knowledge. Okay. That next piece, thank you, Carolyn. That next piece is shaping personal values and beliefs that support healthy behaviors. Values and beliefs, okay? So not always can you change somebody's values and beliefs, but we can try to shape them. And sometimes with knowledge and gaining knowledge helps somebody to shape their personal values and beliefs. And this one is most reflective of that affective domain that we are familiar with, that affective domain, shaping personal values and beliefs. Okay. We're also trying to shape group norms that value healthy lifestyle. So getting more people on that bandwagon toward making healthy decisions, shaping that group norm, you know, what's normal for different groups or age levels, by making these healthier choices. And then the final one, developing essential health skills to adopt, practice, and maintain health enhancing behaviors. So this again is those skills. So we're talking about those skills, and that is most representative or most similar to your psychomotor domain in physical education. But we don't call it psychomotor domain in health education, all right? If you do it for a little bit, if you mix match, you know, those words for a while, that's fine. Typically, though, we will call this, in health education, we call it skill-based or performance-based. Again, because you're looking for that physical performance or that physical demonstration of working through these skills. So let's brainstorm right now. Somebody pop on and tell me, if we're teaching skills in my health classroom, let's say, for example, we're teaching decision-making skills. So you're teaching students the steps that it takes to go through a decision, to make a decision. And maybe what I do is I give you like some situation, and you need to make the right decision. So maybe, you know, it's like a school-related, peer-related situation, and you and your partners are working through the skills of trying to make the right decision in this scenario. Tell me one way that I can, as the teacher walking around, that I can make sure that my students are practicing these skills. Like, what is an assessment kind of a thing that I can do to make sure that my students are practicing and gaining these skills? What do you think the teacher can do to make sure that my students are practicing and gaining these skills? What do you think? Let me pop on. So Shane, Chris, Isaac, Nate, Noah, Sierra, Brandon, Nicole, Ethan, what do you think?
Can you just repeat the question again?
Yeah, sure. So, all right, so we're in a health classroom, right? We're in a health lesson, and we're teaching decision-making skills. So you and a group of friends are working through some type of situation or scenario, and you are working on decision-making skills. Okay, so describe like the environment. What could I have you do as the students, as a group of students? Like, what can I have you doing as a group of students, or what can the teacher watch and observe? So again, this is like the psychomotor domain. In psychomotor and phys ed, you can watch me dribbling, right? You can watch me dribbling and know if I'm doing it right. So as the teacher walking around the room, what might I see in my health classroom?
Well, could you like do like skits, like give them a scenario and then have them play out a skit and see what they would do?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good example. So we'll get into more, example of this later. But right. So a skit, having you and your friends work through some type of a skit, right? And then as the teacher, tell me, what am I looking for? Like I'm looking, you're working on decision making. So I'm looking at you and your classmates working through the skill the right way, right?
Mhm.
During your skit.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. No, you're spot on. And maybe my question was a little confusing. And I think maybe when we get into different examples of how to do this, it might make more sense. But thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. You're right. So a skit is a really good way to have students work through some type of scenario and practice their skills. Perfect. So let's talk about what. This is where you're going to start to need your performance indicators document. And I also have a challenge coming right up. So health literacy is a word that you will hear a very lot. So we have our physical literacy, as we mentioned, when we talked mostly about our physical education content. And we also have health literacy. Okay, so health literacy is the ability to access, understand, appraise, apply, and advocate for health information and services in order to maintain or enhance one's own health or the health of others. Okay, so this is a very, very big definition, and essentially it's all encompassing of our health education standards, our national standards that we have for health education. So I want you to take a look. What are some of those words? So you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 verbs in that definition. So take a look. Get really close. See those verbs in that definition? Which one is the easiest to do? Which one? So again, we're going to that Bloom's taxonomy. All those verbs that we're going to use to write our objectives. Which one is the easiest? It's our lower order thinking. So of those 5, access, understand, appraise, apply, advocate. Which one's the easiest?
Understand.
Understand. Nice job, Dylan. Yeah, thanks so much. Understanding something. It's really easy. That's the easiest one to do, right? It's the easiest verb. So a word or a verb relating to understand would be some of the verbs that you're going to see in our standards and then our performance indicators and that you would use in your objectives. Tell me which one might be the hardest of that list. Access, understand, appraise, apply, and advocate. Which one might be one of the harder ones? Doesn't have to be the hardest, but it's harder.
Praise.
Appraise something. Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Appraising something would be much harder than just understanding it. In order to appraise, you need to be able to understand and then appraise. What's another hard one?
Apply.
Advocate.
Apply. And then who just said advocate?
Oh, I did.
Who's that? Is that Shane? Yeah, advocate I think is the hardest one. Dom, did you say apply?
Yeah, I did.
Thanks, Dom. Appreciate it. Shane, you're spot on. I think advocate might be our hardest one. So to advocate for something, you need to be able to do all of those other verbs in order to be able to advocate. You need to be able to access information, understand it. You should be able to appraise it before advocating. You should be able to apply it before advocating. And now you're advocating for yourself and for others. Okay. So this health literacy definition, again, is all encompassing of our national standards. And our national standards for health will be broken down. So take a look at the document on the right there on the slide. It's just a picture of the document, but appropriate practices. So do you remember the big document, the appropriate practices we had for physical education? It broke you up from elementary, middle, and high school. They also have appropriate practices for health education. So what is appropriate to do in health classrooms, and then what's inappropriate. So it really highlights what is appropriate in health classrooms to make sure our teachers are following through with that. So tell me this. Let's do it in the chat. Okay. So here's a question. What is the definition? These things define what students should know and be able to do. Throw it up in the chat. And in that chat, it is only to me. Yes, yes, yes. Good, good, good. So this defines what students should know and be able to do. Go ahead and throw it into the throw it into the chat. These define what students should know and be able to do. So it's just one word. Make sure it's just one word. It's not the audience part of our objectives. these define what students should know and be able to do. Hint, hint, hint. We have these for health education and we have these for physical education. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Standards. So standards, they define what the student should know and be able to do. How many do we have in physical education? Somebody pop on and tell me. I see a bunch of hands. Awesome. That'll work. 5. Yeah, we have 5 national standards for physical education. Scavenger hunt. Where do you think, where do you think we can find the standards for health education? Does somebody want to pop on and tell me? Where do you think we can find these?
SHAPE website.
You are spot on. The SHAPE website, the SHAPE America website. So why don't we all do that? I'm going to stop screen sharing. I want you to go to the SHAPE America website and find the health education standards. I'm going to give us a minute and a half. That should be enough time to find these. So you are working on navigating through that SHAPE America website. So go ahead and go find those. So SHAPE America. Give me a thumbs up when you have them in front of your screen. Let's see who knows how to navigate this website. Yes, I see so many thumbs up. I'm happy for this. Nice. Awesome. So if you are having trouble finding those, I want you to watch my screen here. I am on SHAPE America's website. You'll see along this blue navigation bar, you want to click on the standards and guidelines. And down here on the right-hand side, you will see standards listed and then health education, okay? If you need the physical education ones, you'll click on physical education, but we are clicking on health education. And here they are, all listed out, okay? So remember that health literacy definition, you'll see that these standards, all these 8 standards here, they kind of help to break down that definition of health literacy into bite-sized chunks so that you can teach to just 1 standard or 2 standards, 3 standards, and you'll hopefully teach all of these standards across your K through 12 program. So these standards, what I want for you to do right now is a good idea is to copy and paste those or save this, screen save, but you will need access to these standards again, and for some of the homework. So I recommend that you maybe copy and paste these. Additionally, for our final, just like we did for physical education, you'll need to know some of these health education standards. Okay, so remember you had to memorize the physical education standards. It's going to be similar for our final with the health education standards. So make sure you have access to these. Cool? Shake your head. Yeah? Awesome. Thanks. So that's how you find those. Make sure that you know how to get to those standards there. All right, can you see my PowerPoint slides again? Awesome. All right, so here we go. We have our national health education standards, and I've copied them into the PowerPoint slides here. For the national health education standards, again, like I mentioned, we're focusing on skill-based health education. So not just that we're teaching like marijuana or alcohol or sex ed or different things like that, but rather we're teaching the skills, these overarching skills that you need to be successful in whether it's, alcohol or marijuana or drunk driving or different things. So we would teach maybe refusal skills or decision-making skills, which then could be applied to a whole bunch of different content areas like marijuana, alcohol, drunk driving, things like that, okay? So these, as you can see, these bolded concepts here before each of the standards kind of are introducing that major skill that we're looking at teaching. So National Standard 1, these are just core concepts. So in this National Standard 1, there's not really a major skill. It's mostly just some major general kind of content relating to this standard. So let's go to standard 2. Analyze influences. So in order to analyze influences, that's a skill. You need to be able to learn how to analyze influences. So that is the skill that we will be teaching for that standard. For standard 3, accessing information and products. That's a skill to do that, to be able to access information and access products and analyze that information. So that's a skill there. Interpersonal communication. There's a bunch of skills related to interpersonal communication that we'll learn during this standard. Standard 5 focuses on decision making for yourself and then for others and in different situations. So decision making is an important skill to learn in health education. Standard 6 is looking at goal setting. So again, another important concept. Can be applied to many different areas of one's health, many different dimensions of health. Self-management skills, again, more important. We're going to break these down into even more in the next few slides. And then advocacy, so being able to advocate. So Shane, you were spot on by saying that advocating is one of our hardest skills. So it's our standard 8, it's our hardest one, because you need to have mastered the previous standards in order to be able to do this one. So here, just like Bloom's taxonomy, you'll notice, remember how we had the lower order thinking and then the higher order thinking? Remember how Bloom's, and we had this on the midterm, how the lower order thinking strategies, or lower order thinking, and then the higher order thinking was at the top at the point, and it's hardest to do the higher order thinking, easiest to do the lower order. So this is the same here with health literacy. So notice at the very bottom, you have low health literacy if all you know are those core concepts or that basic knowledge. You're not very literate, health literate, if all you can do is understand information. You become more health literate. So notice that arrow on the left-hand side going up. You become more health literate as you gain these other skills. So as you can learn to access information, analyze influences, start with decision-making, goal setting, interpersonal communication, and moving up to self-management and advocacy. Do you see on that triangle? Can you see that? So just the same. So somebody pop on and tell me, what is the easiest, which element here is the easiest to do? Which one is the easiest to do? Somebody pop on and tell me.
Core concepts?
Right, the core concepts. Thank you. That was Carolyn, right?
Yeah.
The core concepts are the easiest because that's just that basic knowledge, that basic content that somebody needs, you know, to have a basic understanding about health education. Okay, then moving forward, which ones are going to be the hardest concepts? These are similar to our higher order thinking. Okay, so these are the harder concepts. You need to have mastered everything to get to these. Which two are the hardest?
Interpersonal communication and decision making.
Interpersonal communication, you have up there is a hard one. Decision making, right? Alicia, is that what you said?
Yeah, well, I missed the top two. It's self-management and advocacy. My bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So self-management and advocacy are going to be our two hardest ones. So notice those are our last two standards, standards 7 and 8. So standard 1 is at the bottom. We move up through the triangle to get to the top piece, the advocacy and self-management. You cannot exemplify the skills of self-management or advocate for skills unless you have mastered a lot of these other skills in the meat of that triangle. So it's really important that we build. You'll notice in these standards that we build these skills across the grade levels, K through 12, that by, you know, in the high school levels, 9 through 12, you're really working on self-management and advocacy so that when people graduate from school, that they can self-manage based on their knowledge and their understanding. They have all these other skills and they can advocate for themselves and for others to perform these healthy behaviors. So this triangle is going to be really important for you to understand. Just know that those standards are listed, standard 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 8, are in a sequential type of a manner where they get progressively harder, but you'll also notice that when we break down the standards and see what we teach at each grade level. So here is our first task. So it's a challenge task. So we already did this. Who can find the National Health Education Standards the fastest? Find them online, copy and paste them. So you don't need to copy and paste them into the chat, but I did want us to copy and paste them. You have them for yourselves. So this is really, really important that you have access to these standards. All right, next part. This is where we're gonna get into our breakout rooms. What we're gonna do now is really break them up. Really break up these National Health Education Standards. Notice that acronym there, NHES. You see that on my slide, NHES, National Health Education Standards. You're gonna see that on your lesson plan template. Just know that that's what that stands for, okay? So what we're gonna do now in these breakout rooms, I'm gonna assign them. In each room is gonna be given one standard, okay? So we're obviously gonna have 8 different rooms. That group is gonna come up with a list of topics or units that you might teach to address that standard. So what I want now is not only do you have access to the standards, but I also want you to open up that National Health Education, Performance Indicator document. So again, this is what it looks like on D2L. I kind of took a screenshot of what it looks like on D2L, National Health Education Performance Indicators. I had told you to download these before class started, so make sure you have this document up to help you choose these topics. So what you're gonna do, I'm gonna pop out of this screen share. I'm gonna share my screen here. So these are what the document looks like. Mine has colors and writing on it because I wrote notes to myself. But so as you can see, as you go through, the national standard is listed at the very top. Can everybody see my Word document? Shake your head. All right, cool. You see the national standards listed at the top. Okay, so you don't need access to your national standards right now because it's in this document. So your standard and then the rationale. So why teach this standard? And then these are the performance indicators. And these performance indicators are really similar to those grade level outcomes we've been using for physical education. Okay, so basically this is the same thing. They just call it performance indicators. And basically for pre-K or grade 2 through grade 2, pre-K to grade 2, these are your grade level outcomes. This is what you're looking that students can do at these different grade levels. Okay, so 1, 2, 1. So grade 1, 1, 2, grade 2, 1, 2, grade 3. Okay, 4, and then 5. Oops, I totally just messed it up. Did you see that indicator? This second middle piece, we'll talk about how to read the indicators because I just messed it up. But this middle part, this 2, is the grade level. So we're going through grade 2 here. So this middle part is grade 2, grade 2, grade 2, grade 2, grade 2, and these are the indicators 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so it's actually backwards from the grade level outcomes. Grades 3 through 5 now, with 5 being our maximum grade level here, with these are indicators 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These statements are what you're going to be looking at. So what I want for you to do in your breakout rooms is you're going to go into your breakout rooms. I'm going to assign each breakout room a standard. You're going to move to that page in this document that's standard. So standard 1, you scroll down, standard 2 is down here, standard 3, all the way through standard 8. And you and the individuals in your group, I want you to read through this information. And I want you to think back to when you were in health education or, planning to be a health educator. What topics might you teach? Like what things might you learn when you are like in health education, maybe working toward this standard? So come up with a bunch of different topics that you might teach, keeping in mind, these are skills. We're teaching a lot of skills, but what type of content, in what situations might you use those skills? Does that kind of make some sense? So look at those performance indicators, look at these standard and then the performance indicators and say like, oh, maybe we would teach about drugs during this unit, or maybe we would teach about sex ed during this unit. Maybe we'd teach about nutrition label reading, things like that. I want you to really think about how, what different content might you teach while you're teaching these skills. All right, does anybody have any questions? Pop on and ask me any questions we have. All right, so why don't you take like maybe a 2-minute break. So at 10:34, you can come back, and I'm going to then assign us to breakout rooms. So I'm assigning these breakout rooms now. I'll let you know what standard you're going to work on. Use the performance indicators document to help you, and I'll pop into the different rooms to help out. So take a 2-minute break till 10:34, and then I'll have these rooms ready for you.
So I have a question about these standards,
Go ahead.
and not just these, but also for the physical education ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do they get decided?
The standards?
Yeah,
They have a
I
bunch of
assume it's a committee.
exactly. So Shape America has a bunch of sorry, I'm doing two things at once. A bunch of they have a committee, right? So there's national health. They're all broken up: physical education, health education, so on and so forth. And they have a bunch of content experts who come together. And usually there's a pretty good sampling from people across the entire United States. And they come together and they formulate these the standards.
Okay. Do you know when last these standards were updated?
That's a really good question, and I feel like these are still old. I want to say 2007 for the health education standards, and I know that specifically for Pennsylvania, so there's the national standards, and then there's always the state standards as well. And for the Pennsylvania state standards, I know they're updating them right now, actually. And the reason that they're doing that is to make them more performance related, to move them away from just teaching content to more of that performance that demonstrate those types of that type of language that helps teachers with like assessing and things like that. But I believe the health education standards might be from 2007. I could be wrong, Travis. If you find out I'm wrong, you got to let me know, okay?
Okay. Yeah, it's 2007.
Awesome. Travis, are you on here twice or am I making this up?
I might be on there twice because I tried to log in with the link I've been using all semester, but it wasn't working.
Okay.
And so then I went back into D2L and went to the original link again, and I plugged that in and it worked all of a sudden. So I might be in there twice.
Okay, not a problem. All right, so everybody should be back at this point, so let's put those cameras back on. I have our breakout rooms all set up, I believe. I hope everyone has them. Yep, looks like it's ready to go. So a few of you just pop on back. I don't want to send everybody yet to these breakout rooms until we're ready. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to send us all to the breakout rooms now. Your standard is listed at the top, so you should be able to see that. But basically, Alicia and Noah, your standard 1. Shane, Isaac, Travis, your standard 2. Brandon and Ethan, your standard 3. Dom, John, and Nate, your standard 4. Christian, Mark, and Chloe, you are standard 5. Carolyn and Ryan, your standard 6. Chris and Dylan, your standard 7, and Sierra and Nicole, your standard 8. All right, so go in there, find that page in the performance indicators document, and try to come up with, brainstorm a list of different topics that you might teach, different situations, scenarios that you might teach in order to get students to practice those skills, okay? So somebody record them, write them down, preferably type them so that when we get into the chat, you can chat them to the whole entire group, okay? So save that stuff. I'm going to give us, why don't we take, let's take 10 minutes. Maybe we'll need less and I'll end it if we need less than 10 minutes. Does that sound all right? Let's see. I'll be around for questions. If you need me, go to the main room. All right, here we go. I'm opening it up. I'll see you in a bit. Hi
Yeah.
guys. How's it
She
going?
said you can write them down too. So
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys will write those down. You have what, standard 7, right?
yeah.
Okay. Any questions for me yet?
Nope. I think we're
Oh,
good.
good. See you in a few.
Yeah.
Hi, gentlemen. Is Brandon
Hello.
back?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Ethan, do you get a haircut too?
I got a buzz cut for
Buzz
$100.
Phew. Very nice. And now you got to keep your head warm, huh?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Brandon, what's your
Dr.
camera? What happened?
Oh, I just had it hooked up to my monitor. I'm just unplugging it because I had to charge my computer.
Okay.
I was just wondering, I just saw you posted something and it's not there anymore. What did you say? Like,
Oh,
it came up
yeah, I just
in the chat.
reiterated the instructions. So, do you guys know what you're doing?
Yeah, well, we found our standard 3.
Perfect. So you're in that performance indicator document, right?
Yeah.
Right. So now look through and try to figure out like what would be different content that you might teach to get students to practice those skills. So I gave some examples like drug education. Would you teach nutrition type of information? Like what types of things might you teach to get students to practice the skills that these standards are mentioning? Does that make sense?
We're doing it for all grades, or are we just picking one specific grade?
Yeah, for all grades. Do it for all grades because so that's why you have to kind of read through that whole page because a lot of times the content might be the same, but you learn it more simply at, you know, in elementary levels, and then it gets more and more complex as you get older. So do it for all the grades.
Sure.
All right.
Alrighty. Reach out if you have any questions. All right.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whoa.
Gentlemen, how was it
Do you
going?
know it's good? Do you know if the breakout room chat will disappear if once we go to the main room?
That is a phenomenal question. I have no idea, so I recommend that you copy everything that you write.
Okay.
I know I'll be able to get it probably at the end of the class, but not, I don't know about right now.
All right, I'm just gonna do a test message and see what happens.
There, oh, good idea. All right, so tell me, do you guys have any questions?
I don't think so.
So we're on the standard 2 and we're in that performance indicator document, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so read through all of that content there and try to figure out like what units or what content would I teach to get students to practice these skills. So think back to what you know, different content maybe you learned in your health education. Was it like nutrition or drugs? Like what different things could I teach here to get students to practice those skills? Cool?
Cool.
All right, I'll see you in a bit. Saw you. What's up?
Hello. So our group was kind of struggling on this.
Sure. Well, what group are you in? I'm going to go into that room now.
Standard 4.
All right, I'll be there in a sec.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, guys. What's up?
We were just kind of confused on, like we read through the all the performance indicators through each grade level, and we just haven't. We're kind of confused here a bit.
You know, you have a so this is standard 4, right? You have, this is a hard one. It's not hard. It's so easy because there's so much there. But I don't know if you were thinking about it in a different way. So, so you have a lot of skills. There's a lot of skills in this standard. So think about like, when would it be important to use those skills? All right, so let's look at performance indicator. Go to grades 3 to 5, and then performance indicator 4.5.2.
Okay.
Demonstrate refusal skills that avoid or reduce health risks. So the skill there being refusal skills, when would somebody need to use refusal skills? So think health stuff.
Like to say no to drugs.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So you would do, so maybe to say no to drugs. So you would maybe teach like some drug education stuff here, right?
Okay, I see.
Mm-hmm. So when else might you need to use refusal skills? It's a harder one. You kind of got it, right? But so drugs, maybe alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So now let's go down to, let's see. All right, so go into the pre-K to grade 2. So not down. Let's see if the other guys can pop in here. So grade pre-K to 2. Let's look at 4.2.2. Demonstrate listening skills to enhance health. Listening skills. So listening is part of what major skill set? So verbal and nonverbal. What was that, Nate?
Cognitive, like listening to be able to like remember, I guess, health, ways to benefit your health, but I feel like they're too young to, that's probably not.
Well, think about listening more so like listening to a friend, right? Like I can actively listen to you. I'm listening to you when you're expressing your feelings. I'm listening to you as you're describing, how to play a game. So listening, listening is a nonverbal skill. What's the verbal? What am I getting at here? I think it's on this. So what's the, read the performance indicator just above that one, 4.5.1. Verbal and nonverbal what?
Needs, wants, and feelings.
Needs, wants, and feelings. Okay, so that's there, but so look at grades 3 to 5. So 3, see how just below there says 3 through 5?
Yeah.
What's that first statement there?
Demonstrate effective verbal and nonverbal communication skills to enhance health.
Right, so communication skills, so verbal and nonverbal communication. And with the communication, then what different, when is communication important in health? So we talked a little bit about drugs would be like content you might teach with refusal skills, right? Refusing drugs. When do you need to use communication and how does that relate to health? Anybody? You guys can all pop on. So communication skills being your major skill set there. Why don't you read the rationale? I think that might get you thinking a little bit. So read that rationale, come up with, and it's all right if you're not, hitting all of these. You have a lot of skills here. So try to pull out what is a skill and then try to think about what, when do you need to use that skills? When do you need to use that skill set? All right, come up with a few ideas and then we'll get going. But this is a heavy standard. I want to make sure everybody else is on task. So I'm going to pop into a different room. So keep going, come up with maybe 2 more examples if you can, and then we'll meet back up, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming to find me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so everybody's back in this main room. Were you able to come up with a bunch of examples? I didn't get to all the breakout rooms. Is anybody confused? Pop on and tell me if you were confused, because if so, I want you to go back. I don't think we have everybody here yet. No, we don't. But that's why, because I have the breakout room still open, because some people are still working. So did any of your groups still need more time? Okay, Nicole, you look a little, Nicole, come on and tell me. Come on and tell me what you're thinking here.
No, I think we got it.
Are you sure? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. If not, again, that's okay. We'll work through it. Okay, I think people are starting to come back. more and more. All right, I'm gonna go get the people who are still working, and we'll meet back in a second. So make sure you have these ideas written down because we're gonna kind of work through them a little bit together. Hey guys, how's it going? Do we have any ideas going on here? Or we stumped?
Yeah.
You good?
We made a list of different units we could teach.
All right, perfect. So that's what we want. So why don't you head back into the main room, and then we will we're gonna go over them kind of all together. I thank you so much for working so hard.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys in the main room. One more, I'll be right back. All right, did we get any further, guys? Or are we stumped?
Came up with stress management as a way to express your feelings.
Awesome, great, yes.
And that's about it.
All right, not a problem. So let's go back to the main room. Everyone's gonna be up in the main room and we'll work through all of this together. So that was a really good, you had a really hard standard. There's a lot of content in here. So we'll continue working through it, okay?
Yep,
Make sure you're taking these notes down though, guys, because it's gonna help you for the homework, alrighty?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll see you in a bit.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, everybody should be back. So let's make sure those cameras are back on and we're ready to go. How'd that go? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs middle, if I have no idea what I'm doing? A little bit, right? Okay, cool. So if you see anybody with a thumbs to the middle, they had a really hard standard. So we're gonna help out. All right, so what I wanna do is kind of go through what some of the stuff that you have discussed and described. So why don't we do, I don't want to share my screen yet because I have some answers there. So who was in, go ahead, Travis, you have a question?
So just to summarize what I think we were supposed to do. We were supposed to go into the standard that we had and then make up assignments or content that related to the things we were supposed to cover.
Exactly. Yep, you're exactly right. So as you present now, what I want you to do is I'll call up standard one first. And I want you basically to say, these are the things that you might learn. I want us to think like, when we were in health education, what content did we learn? And then bring it back to the skills. Like the standards are really good at bringing out those skills that we need. So what content might we have learned?
Oops, sorry.
Those different skills.
I didn't mean to chat yet. That's my bad.
Okay, you're good. Oops, secret, that's fine. So who was my standard one group?
That was me and Alicia.
All right, who says me? Me was Noah. Okay,
Yeah.
Noah and Alicia, thank you so much. Do you want to, the way I want you to present this is read out your standard one statement, your whole statement, and then, throw out some ideas of content that you might learn when you're learning this standard. What I recommend the rest of us do is perhaps we record some of this information, maybe take some notes, because you're going to need some of this for your lesson when you do the lesson planning, okay? It might help you with lesson planning. So go ahead, Noah or Alicia, whoever wants to present, go ahead.
So we're reading the standard first and then like what we read. Okay, so standard one, students will comprehend concepts related to health promotion and disease prevention to enhance health. And then there are things we wrote to teach them lifetime fitness to prevent obesity-caused illnesses, and then educate students on the risks of smoking and how it can be detrimental to your health.
Okay, awesome. So I want to write these down to make sure that I'm staying on. So you talked about smoking, right?
Yes.
And lifetime fitness?
Yep.
For standard one. So good. So tell me right here, what would be the skill? And so if this is the rest of the class, if you're in your performance indicator document, what I recommend you doing is highlighting what you see. So everyone's on standard one. Highlight the part that you see where the skill is. Highlight what that skill is that you're looking at, and then maybe type down some examples like your classmates are recommending. So what skill there for standard one? What is our major skill? Are we finding a major skill here?
The skill would be like lifetime fitness to like enhance your health, like learning like ways that you can stay physically active?
Yeah, so right, so you would teach that, yeah, within that content. This is kind of a trick question, and I'm not really helping you out any here. So standard 1, if you remember, was our major element here was the comprehending concepts. Remember, that was the easiest one. Remember, it was like understand, it was like our lowest level on that triangle. So those comprehending concepts. So this one, there are skills related, just like you said, if you were to teach lifetime fitness, or if you were to teach with smoking, you know, there's some skills related to smoking. But this major standard 1 is getting at comprehending those major basic concepts of all types of health. So like you said, with fitness or smoking, you could teach, there's a lot of pieces here talking about disease and injury, disease prevention. So what might be a really important thing that you would teach now, particular to our situation, particular to this pandemic? Like what might be some things you could teach now relating to disease prevention? What do you think?
Maybe tips to keep yourself safe during the pandemic. I don't.
Yeah, so you muted yourself toward the end there, Noah, but you're exactly right. Different, you know, different skills that you need to keep yourself safe during the pandemic. Spot on. All right. So you're right. So in your performance indicator document, I want you to highlight comprehend concepts. So in that standard 1, that comprehend concepts, I want you to highlight that part so that you remember in our standard 1, that was our lowest level. That was our easiest component in that triangle. And it gives us the foundational knowledge that we need to do all the other skills like decision making and advocating and self-management. All right, so that was the comprehending concepts. So Noah and Alicia, nice job with your topics there. Other things that we would learn. So notice how I look on my screen. I highlighted comprehend concepts. And some ideas that I could see that us teaching here: prevention and control of disease, injury prevention and safety. And I came up with those just based on looking at these different indicators. You know, I was able to say, you know, look at these different major content areas, you know, in the performance indicators. So standard 1 is hard because it's so general. It's so general. So Alicia, Noah, nice job. Who wants to come on and talk about standard 2?
My group had standard 2.
Your group. So Travis, are you going to talk for us?
Yeah, I'll talk.
Okay, go ahead. So again, read the standard and then tell us some different things you might teach.
So the standard for standard 2 is students will analyze the influence of family, peers, culture, media, technology, and other factors on health behaviors.
Right.
And the two specific numbered outcomes that we landed on were 2.8.2. Describe the influence. Sorry, 0.3. Describe how peers influence healthy and unhealthy behaviors. And we started talking about drugs and alcohol. And the topic that we all had would just be one describing, first of all, this would be covered earlier. This wouldn't necessarily be this standard, but the actual factual effects of drugs and alcohol, the negative effects and all that good stuff. But then more importantly, a topic analyzing how your friends and peers may lead you to using drugs or alcohols.
Okay,
whether
right.
that
What's that
be
called?
overt or more insidious.
Right. What is that called when your peers influence you to do something?
Peer pressure.
Right. Peer pressure. Right. Good. So I'm going to screen share again. So nice job with that, coming up with different examples. So show me everyone in your document right now. Notice how in my document I just did this. Analyze the influence. So this is analyzing influences. Okay, that's that major skill set that we're learning there, analyzing influences. Particular to family, peers, culture, media, and technology. And Travis's group focused on peers there, so influences of peers, right? But we are also influenced to do good things, bad things, whatever, from our family, from the culture, media, and different technology. So yeah, when you talked about a little bit of peer pressure and how you could kind of relate that to drugs and alcohol. Different other topics we might teach during this time, and again, it's just these are skills, so you can apply them to many different areas of life. The different things you might teach here too would be about family life and family structure, so that especially initially they understand, family structure and family influences, and then how, that influences them over time. Community health, so how the community is structured and how, again, that can influence their choices or their options in life, or different things over time. Consumer health, so again, how they're influenced to buy things and to use things. So particular here, I like to focus on media. Has anybody ever had a health lesson about how to consume media, or any like information about social media and how that influences you and makes you either make certain choices or make you feel certain ways? Anybody have any? Did anybody ever teach you how to utilize social media?
TED Talks.
TED Talks, awesome. So not in health though, right? So okay, let's talk about social media just for a second, just to give an idea. So social media, good, bad, indifferent, what do we think?
Bad.
Travis, all right, so go ahead. I'll let Travis go since this is your standard. Travis, what do you say bad? Why do you say bad?
I think it causes people to have a very negative view of their life, because people will compare themselves to others. It's what humans do. It's how we live, by comparing ourselves to others generally.
Okay.
And back in the day when you could only compare yourselves to those you personally knew in your life, it wasn't that big of a deal because you saw them and interacted with them. But now, because of social media, we can compare ourselves to literally the best version of the whole world constantly, because people will generally only post good things. Like, why would they post, hey, I'm having just a bad day, I feel down, I really feel like, no, they're like, hey, had a great day, I'm feeling great, I did this cool thing. But everyone's doing that constantly, and so you don't see the infrequency in which that happens. You just think everyone's having a great time all the time, but you see all your insecurities and your bad times. You're like, why aren't I like that? That's why.
No, spot on. So Travis, you're spot on. So you don't want to say social media is good, bad, or indifferent, but what you would teach is exactly what you just said. Okay. So you teach, and this goes in consumer health, how to consume media. So understanding that everyone's always posting their best moments. They're showing off, they're standing out. And so teaching students and teaching people that is exactly what media is, and that's exactly what social media does, is it broadcasts the best parts of people's lives, not as much about their negative sides. And so that doesn't mean that you're not perfect, and you teach students not to compare themselves. So that's kind of an example of something you would teach then. You would analyze the influence of social media on someone's life, how it influences their thoughts, their feelings, their health behaviors. Look at this standard. 2.5.5, explain how media influences thoughts, feelings, and health behaviors. Okay, relating to COVID right now, news is media, right? So how does the news influence your health behaviors? When you're privy to the number of COVID cases and how to behave and act in public with a mask and all that stuff, that media is influencing your health behavior. Right? So you teach students how to utilize and analyze these different influences, whether it be from family, peers, culture, media, technology. And again, it can come across a lot of different content areas. So Travis, another element you targeted on was how people they feel inadequate related to social media. So you might also then touch on mental and emotional health, right? Mm-hmm. A little bit there. So again, you see how you can teach a lot of different things based on the wording and specifically the verbiage in these standards. So Travis, thank you so much for your group and your share. I very much appreciate your share there. So who has our standard 3? Who had standard 3? Who wants to pop on and talk about standard 3? So I hope the rest of you are kind of taking some notes here. It'll really help you moving forward with your lesson planning. Who had standard 3?
That was me and Ethan. I can talk a little bit about it for a sec.
Go ahead. So
So
read that standard and then go ahead.
Yeah, it was standard 3 students will demonstrate the ability to access valid information, products, and services to enhance health. So we talked about maybe how students could have access to like psychology services like in school and guidance to help them out and, to like enhance students, and maybe they could start talking about like what and why they feel healthy, for what reason.
I love that idea. I love that idea so much. That's a really good idea. So even you can even think back to our first week together as well, when you had that it might have been the second week. But when we tried to make you aware of all the different services that Westchester has, right? Do you remember that? So now you know we have counseling services and the writing center and all of these different services, again, to make you aware that you have access. So looking at my document, Brandon, awesome share there. Standard 3 is looking, the verbs here demonstrate the ability to access valid information. So access being our main target here. How do you access these different services, products, information that you need to make healthy choices, right? So what you had talked about was, how do I access or reach out to maybe different psychological services, or in a school district, maybe the guidance counselors, right? Or
Yeah.
the nurses, right? And those would fall under these, you keep seeing in this standard, trusted adults and professionals, right? So teach them who they can trust and who they can go to when they think they have a problem, or if they want to promote their health or change their health. So that's important there. Does anybody have any other ideas as well? Like, so we're accessing valid information about products and services. So when you're looking to buy something or to get some type of service, what do you typically do first? How do you get that? How do you find out what to do? So let's say you're looking to get some kind of a service, or you're looking to buy something. What is something that people typically do before they just go buy it?
They like look up the reviews.
Okay, so looking up reviews, right? So you might look up reviews. Good job, Sierra. Thanks. What else might you do? You just look up reviews, that's it? What do you have to do to get to the reviews?
Google it.
What was that?
Google it, or find out more about it online.
Right, so find out more about it online. So would you prefer to use a blog, or would you prefer to use the company's website to get information? Which one's more valid? Which one usually has more valid information?
Company website.
Probably the company website, right? So you learned that. You had to learn. I know, Travis, I knew you were going to do that face. I don't know if anybody saw Travis's face, but he was like this. Spot on, not wrong. You're a healthy consumer. So on my screen share here, consumer health. Travis made that face, and maybe many of you as well. Always go to the company website. They obviously want you to buy it, right? So they're gonna put on a certain front. They have their own preferences and opinions about it, right? So maybe the blog is a more true. Travis, am I getting at what you're thinking? Maybe the blog is more of an accurate, representation. But again, it's somebody's opinion. But teaching students how to access different sources to get the right information, to get accurate information. We teach about especially how to find appropriate, it's called like quackery and different ways to make sure that products and things are true, they are real, they really do what they say they're going to do, and how to help students make that differentiation, and then make the right choice there. That was funny. All right, so let's go. Thank you very much, everybody who participated there. Thank you, Carolyn. How about standard 4? Who is my standard 4?
That was me, John, and Nate.
All right, Dom, let's see it. Let's read the
Okay,
standard
so
and then go ahead.
Standard 4, students will demonstrate the ability to use interpersonal communication skills to enhance health and avoid or reduce health risks. And then, so we said drug education and alcohol education, because we still have refusal skills in there, and also stress management, because we also saw ways to express feelings.
Awesome job with that group. This standard 4 is jam-packed with skills. So if you look at my screen share here, it is, whoops, jam-packed with all of these skills. So this one is really targeting a lot of skills. The main one being interpersonal communication skills in that standard statement. But then all throughout here, I mean, they have, you're working on listening skills, so you're an active listener. You are, you're working on refusal skills, so that's why they said maybe drug education, alcohol education, to refuse, say no to drugs. Verbal and nonverbal communication, so different ways to, you know, to communicate in a healthy way. So using I messages, I feel like, you know, this relationship isn't going where I wanted it to go, or I feel like, things like that. Nonverbal communication, look somebody in the eyes, have nice nonverbal communication strategies while you're speaking with somebody. So you actually teach those, you actually practice how to have a conversation, and how to practice how to look presentable with these nonverbal communication strategies in your health class. You teach these things and you practice them in your class. It's awesome. The refusal skills, you teach how to refuse different, you know, maybe drugs or alcohol in different situations, again, in your class. It's really great. More skills here, asking for assistance, literally a skill that you practice, that we teach students how to ask for assistance, how to ask for help, especially relating to their health. You teach negotiation skills, so how to negotiate with somebody and without being aggressive, but rather being assertive in your negotiation skills and standing up for yourself. Conflict management is another major skill that you teach here, and resolution strategy, so how to overcome a problem in conflict management. This standard is jam-packed with skills. And then as you see, starting with, you know, this early performance indicators, it's you start with very simple skills, expressing your needs, listening, responding, and finding a trusted adult, moving all the way toward those harder, higher order thinking, where now you're using multiple skills at one time, like refusal, negotiation, and collaboration skills. So it starts, again, it just shows how it gets a little bit harder. So you mentioned also stress management, Dom, and your group. So right, stress management, especially when you're expressing your needs, your wants, your feelings. Stress management might be important for some of the different topics you will address relating to some of these skills. So other content, you'll teach about, you know, one's personal health, and within all of those dimensions, so that physical domain, the emotional domain, the social domain, all those different domains or dimensions of health. Other things you might teach about mental and emotional health, like for example, Dom had just mentioned stress management. You might teach a little bit about family life here. So a lot of things going on here with that major skill set being interpersonal communication skills, with these communication skills all encompassing all of the other skills that we have here. All right, so this is a really important standard across all grade levels. Cool, thank you so much. That was standard, what, 4? Who was standard 5?
That was me, Christian, and Chloe.
All right, go ahead.
We didn't really get many examples, but so standard 5 is students will demonstrate the ability to use decision-making skills to enhance health. So kind of what I got from that after standards was that a lot of this stuff is more like hands-on stuff that you honestly would learn more in the situation, but I think this is just to give you that knowledge beforehand. So for example, like let's see. I think it was 5.12.1. It says examine barriers that can hinder healthy decision making. So you're kind of like going over like peer pressure, the different factors that go into making a decision maybe. So like you could go over like, I think Christian said something about alcohol and like drug like use and stuff like that, and how to like counter that and make the healthy decision. So that's pretty much what I got from it anyway.
No, and so you made a really good point there, Mark, is that that you feel like this standard 5, can go across a lot of different content domains, right? That's what you said?
Yeah.
And so that's exactly right. So what you just mentioned there, and everybody listen in on this. he just said in standard 5, so there's 8 standards, right? Standard 5, he feels like these skills, the focus here being decision-making skills, can target all these different content areas. And think back, standard 1 is that core concept, those core concepts, that basic fundamental, that content knowledge, that content on a general level, where then these other standards target the main skills needed to be successful in those different content areas. So decision-making skills are needed for drug education, in sex education, in communication, in making healthy choices, nutrition healthy choices, in all of these different content areas. So Mark, what you said is exactly right. As you're progressing and getting to a harder standard, or as we know, the standards are getting toward the top of that peak, they're harder to obtain, which means that you need to have mastered a lot of that content early on, and means that you can apply it to a lot of settings. So different things, like you said, Mark, you were identifying different barriers that can hinder decision making. You're right. So that goes to peer influences, which is back an earlier standard. And different topics as well, like substance abuse and use and abuse. So drugs and alcohol type of education, you need to use decision-making skills there, right?
Right.
You need to use decision-making when you're making nutritious choices. You need to use decision-making skills when you're deciding with your consumer health education. So consuming, again, that media, consuming, health, but consuming different things in your life. You need to make the decision, is this right or is this wrong? Is this appropriate or inappropriate? Within environmental decision-making skills. So, going to like recycling and things like that. Injury prevention and safety. So wearing a helmet while you're riding a bicycle, wearing a seatbelt while you're in the car. All of these are decisions that individuals need to make. So the content that you teach may be different, but what you're teaching are these decision-making skills. When you teach how to make a decision, then that decision and those skills can be applied to all this different content. Does that make sense? So somebody pop on, because I see, what I'm noticing right now is that there's some people are getting a little maybe antsy, a little bored. So pop on. This is a group question. Tell me, Mark, thanks so much anyway. Mark, thanks for sharing for your group. So pop on and tell me, what is the main focus of this health education that we are teaching now? What is it? I've mentioned it several times. It is the new way of teaching health education. What is it called?
Task-oriented.
Okay,
Skill-based.
okay, so what did you just say? The last part was right.
Skill-based.
Skills-based health education. Skills-based, so we're focusing on those skills. Notice in each of these standards, look at my screen share, I am highlighting these major skills that we need to teach, right? So on all of these standards, I'm highlighting this major skill set, skills-based health education. Thank you, Travis. All right, so we have 3 more standards. Who had standard 6?
That was Ryan and
All right, go ahead, Carolyn. Are you going to share?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was students will demonstrate the ability to use goal setting skills to enhance health. And we said, we had a couple examples. We did maybe set a goal that by the end of the school year, they have to have tried like certain different vegetables like every week or something like that. Or maybe like start off small, like every week they have to eat a healthy meal at home and like explain to the class about it. But then like by the end of the school year, they have to bring it in for everybody to try or something and explain why it's healthy. Maybe.
Okay. So goal setting with nutrition related, right?
Yeah. And then we did one that was, they have to, no, that one doesn't count actually.
take that one back.
Yeah.
No, you're spot on. So let's open up. Where did I just lost my document. Where did it go? So here's your goal setting, right? So goal setting being that major skill set. So I'm highlighting it on my document because it's goal setting is the skill that you teach, that main skill. You teach somebody how to set a goal. And different content areas that you could teach. So personal health, maybe with personal health, I want to start making healthier choices I want to sleep more. Okay, so if I wanted to sleep more, because I know that's good for me, that is, I will set a goal for sleeping, and that is in personal health, right? Mental and emotional health, perhaps I want to set goals for stress management, right? So mental and emotional health are more topics here. The target or the topic that Carolyn and your group, you kind of targeted there was nutrition, right? So making healthy food choices. So I made goals to eat better and to maybe eat more fruits and vegetables, and then they were able to then share that with their classmates, which is nice because now you're starting to advocate for healthier choices based on your goals. I can learn goal setting skills during consumer education. So perhaps consumer, maybe I want to start using less social media. Maybe I want to stop comparing myself as much to others on social media. So I set goals for that. Perhaps I set goals for injury prevention and safety. Maybe I'm someone who not all the time wears my helmet when I'm riding my bicycle, and I know that I should, so I set goals to remind myself to wear my helmet. And then goal setting, you can, as well with substance use and abuse, so drugs and alcohol type stuff. I can set goals to maybe improve my behaviors relating to substance use and abuse. Okay, so see again how this major skill set is, can be taught in a variety of different content areas. Okay, nice job. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for your group. Who had standard 7?
That was Dylan and I.
All right, you want to share for us?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Standard 7 was students will demonstrate the ability to practice health enhancing behaviors and avoid or reduce health risks.
Mm-hmm.
And what we came up with were like different units that could help kids like understand since it involved like general health.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
we said things like sex ed, balanced eating habits, a yoga unit because that reduces your stress levels and stuff like that.
Cool.
The importance of having a daily activity in your life, not just like during school, but like outside of school, and
like a hobby.
And also like drug education because obviously that's a big deal.
Awesome. So you guys really targeted a lot of things here, and I really like. It seems like you really kind of understood what I was looking for, and I'm really appreciative of that. And what really helped you guys, Chris, to be so successful was you really understood what health risks were, what the health risks were. So everybody, make sure you can see my screen. I'm going to make this so you can see larger. Do you see in the red box here where I have YRBS health risks? Can you see that? Shake your head. Yeah, cool. So these are with the CDC Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So that's what the YRBS stands for, and we're going to talk a lot more about that next class. But basically, youth risks. They list a bunch of different risks that are mostly within youth that would maybe impede their overall health and well-being. And this is made by the CDC. Okay, so it's a nationwide survey. It goes to a bunch of people across different age levels across all the states, and they obtain a lot of information about what our youth are actually engaged in and the different health behaviors. And these are what they find to be the most important, the biggest risks to impeding their health. So behaviors that contribute to unintentional injuries and violence, sexual behaviors related to unintended pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases, including the HIV infection, alcohol and other drug use, tobacco use, unhealthy dietary behaviors, so related to nutrition, and then inadequate physical activity. So these are what they're finding are most prevalent issues and risks in youth today that are impeding their overall health. So it's important that we target these youth risks in order to, with the skills that we're going to teach, like teach the skills to get students to make better choices relating to these risks, okay? So once you understand what the risks are, you can now understand that this content from this standard, again, is applicable across a lot of different content domains, different things that you might teach in your health. So we want to practice health enhancing behaviors in general and avoid or reduce these health risks. So this is all encompassing here. We're starting to be all encompassing here, where we are now able to use a lot of the other skills we learned in the other standards: decision making, accessing information, valid information, and all of the different standards, the conflict resolution, all of those things now are starting to come in full swing in this standard and the next standard. Remember, this standard 7 and 8 are at the very top of that pyramid. Do you remember? Self-management and advocacy. So this is our self-management. We're really looking that somebody can make all the right choices, that they can use all their skills to be personally healthy in a lot of different domains. So a lot of different examples I gave here too: personal health, nutrition, injury prevention, substance use and abuse, prevention and control of diseases. Again, relating to these youth health risks. Okay, so this standard 7, and again, we'll see it in standard 8, are now this all-encompassing, can you really practice all of these skills that we've learned to make yourself a better, healthy person and manage self-management. So this YRBS, these health risks, we're going to get into greater detail with those next week. We're going to go to the website and see even what the data is for Pennsylvania, so you can kind of see what we're looking at with our youth. So thank you so much for sharing. Who had our standard 8, or our standard 8? National Health Education Standard 8. Who was that?
Nicole and I did it.
Awesome. All right, Sierra, you want to go ahead, or do you want to have Nicole do it?
I got it.
Okay.
So ours is we knew it was gonna be hard since it's pretty broad.
Right.
So we kind of talked about communication skills with friends, classmates, teachers, and family.
Oh wait, hang on.
And
freeze, Sierra, freeze. Can you read your standard first so everybody can follow along?
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Standard 8.
Students will demonstrate the ability to advocate for personal, family, and community health.
Okay. So now go ahead and tell us what you got.
So we put communication skills with friends, classmates, teachers, and family, and diet, make healthy choices and make healthy choices with their lifestyle. And then leadership skills, not being a follower and doing what's right. And then we talked about advocacy, make posters around the school and talk to administration about food choices in the cafeteria, and make sure your family or friends are on the right health track. And ultimately we said you need to make sure that they can understand and apply what having it an ongoing healthy lifestyle is. So.
Absolutely. You guys, you spot on. So Nicole, give yourself a pat on the back there. All right. That was awesome. Sierra, good job. So with that one, right. So you made a good point again. So it's an all-encompassing standard. This standard is, it is our advocacy standard. And in order to advocate for something, you need to have all the content knowledge, you need to have all of those skills that we've learned in the previous standards. So just as you two have mentioned, there's you're working on communication here, you're working on nutrition here, you're working on personal health, you're working on personal fitness, but not just for yourself, advocating for your peers, your friends, and your family, and saying, not only am I making healthy choices for myself, but I can also help to inform others and get others to learn about these healthy choices as well. And so you would then, this standard works in different levels to get you to be able to not only advocate for your own personal health, but then, as well for other individuals. So it gets broken down here. So again, many different content areas, but that skill then is how to advocate. And you guys had a really awesome example with, making posters and putting them around the school or speaking to administration. Those are true forms of advocacy. So that was awesome. Thank you everybody for sharing. It was very specific yet very broad, right? So you'll have 4 more years to get really in depth with these standards and breaking them down and writing lesson plans for them, to be able to teach to your students. But the main piece here being that skill. So we're teaching that skill, teach that skill. And once you teach that skill, it doesn't matter what content you're teaching with it. That skill is the major piece, because then that skill can be applied to all these different settings, whether it be nutrition or social media or safety or disease or, all those different topics. So it's the skill that is so, so, so important. And I hope that that's kind of what you got out of that. All right, so right now I'm going to do a screen share again, back into the PowerPoint. Shake your head. Can you see my PowerPoint? Awesome. So in all of those standard statements, just the same as with the physical education standards, our health education standards are written in such a way that we have that verb, which here happens to be the skill. So again, I want you to focus when you're reading the standards that you're looking at those verbs. Tell me this. Tell me this, the verbs in the standards, what do they help you to write? When you're writing a lesson plan, the verb in the standard, it helps you to write what specifically in your lesson plan?
Objectives?
Absolutely, Carolyn. Yes, the objectives. So the verb in the standard, whether it be demonstrate or apply or utilize or examine, it helps you to write your objective. The student will be able to apply blah, blah, blah. The student will be able to examine, blah, blah, blah. It really helps you to write your objectives, which then help you to plan what the activity you're going to do is, so your task. So identify those verbs. That's the most important piece, and we kind of just did that. How do these relate to the Bloom's taxonomy? So let's see if anybody's picking up on this. So looking at those verbs, or even just the progression of those standards 1 through 8, how does this relate to Bloom's taxonomy? Remember, Bloom's taxonomy was also that triangle, lower order to higher order thinking. So I've said this multiple times. Let's see if you're picking up on it. How does let's say the triangle of our health education standards, or standard 1 all the way up to standard 8, how does that relate to our Bloom's taxonomy, our lower order thinking to our higher order thinking?
It goes from like not complex to like more complex. Like it gets harder. So it's like the same.
Right. Yeah, Alicia, so stay on. So which is it harder at the top? Is it harder at the bottom? Which one?
It's harder at the top.
It's harder at the top. So that's our higher order thinking is happening at the top, right?
Yeah.
Lower order, or the easier stuff, is at the bottom. Those basic concepts. So national standard 1 being those basic concepts, getting harder and harder and harder as you progress up that triangle, with the hardest standards and the hardest verbs and the hardest content being at the very top of that triangle. Yes? Shake your head. All right. Yep. So that's how it's similar to Bloom's taxonomy in that manner. Carolyn had just come on and told us how these verbs in our standards relate to writing objectives in our lesson plans. So focus on, when you're writing these and figuring out these skills, that you're looking at those verbs and those major skills in the health education standards in order to write your objectives for that lesson. That is the focus. Which then also helps you to plan skill-related learning activities for your students. So whatever you write in your objectives, you then are making sure that your activities are aligned with your objectives, right? Which also means that when you're assessing your student knowledge, you're doing so in a way that is related to that skill that you're teaching. Okay, so that this all is it's just a little bit of a review of that alignment. If you remember that alignment piece from our physical education lesson plan, we also need to have that same alignment in our health education lessons. So this slide is just a basic, really general, different type of content area. And you've seen these in my performance indicator document that I just went through. But through the CDC, they kind of break up health education into these varying content areas, focusing, community health being one of them, family life, mental and emotional health, nutrition, the prevention and control of diseases, consumer health, environmental health, injury prevention and safety, personal health, and then substance abuse and substance use. So you saw these different content areas as I was going through my performance indicator document with you, and then we were trying to align what content might be taught with different skills. But again, our focus is not on teaching these different content, but more so on teaching the skills, so that the skills can be used with a varying different content areas. All right, so these were just kind of to jog your memory of maybe you remember having different content in these different areas. So check this out. On the left-hand side, whoops. On the left-hand side, you'll see our standards. So standard 1, standard 2, all the way up to standard 8. And on the right-hand side, you see our CDC risk factors, which were those YRBS, the youth risk behavior, CDC risk factors. So alcohol, injury, and violence, tobacco, nutrition, inadequate physical activity, and risky sexual behaviors, okay? So as you can see, when we, this is just a diagram to help you understand that as you become more knowledgeable and more skills-based with your standards, you then will reduce your risk factors, okay? So do you see how on the left-hand side, if we increase our knowledge and our skills relating to our standards, we're actually helping our students to reduce those risk factors. Does that make sense? Right, so the more that, the better that you can work on communication, decision-making, goal setting, healthy behaviors, practicing healthy behaviors, advocating, accessing information on the left-hand side will help our students utilize those skills in those situations with risk factors relating to drug and alcohol, injuries, tobacco, nutrition, physical activity, so on and so forth. Okay, so our goal in health education is to do just that. Let's teach the skills of those standards, and because they can be applied in those different risky health situations. So now let's get into the how. So how do we teach health? So this is the thing. So now we're going to start talking a little bit in the beginning. I confused the heck out of Sierra this morning, asking her a question. She did her best to help me out, so thanks, Sierra. But basically, let's talk about how we're going to teach health now. And so we know that health needs to be skills-based, needs to be skills-based. So if we are teaching skills-based health education, we want our students engaged. You should not have your students sitting in their chair while we're teaching health, because we want students up and practicing communication and advocacy and accessing information, practicing, right? So what are some ideas, different things that you might be able to do in a health classroom that will get students out of their chairs and practicing skills? So let's think. You can either think of something that you might want to teach, or specifically right now I'm asking, in what ways do we teach these things? How do we get students out of their chairs and practicing skills? So you can give me examples of maybe things that you've done in your health classrooms. So who wants to pop on and tell me, how can we get students out of our chairs and not looking at a PowerPoint slide, but practicing skills?
I know my school, we did like scavenger hunts.
Okay, Sierra, tell me about that.
Like whichever one we'd answer like right, we'd have to go like around and find like where the answer was for the next question, and then we could keep on going. And like whichever team like finished first like won technically.
Okay, so were you like going around
we did
the school
it on, like,
to find?
We did it like after a lesson. No, it was just around the room.
Okay, around the room. And so you were you had to like go around and find new bits of information?
Yeah, kinda.
Okay, so
I kind of forget, but I know we did a scavenger hunt.
Okay, right. So a scavenger hunt, especially if you're relating it to certain content, yeah, you're getting students out of their chairs, they're moving around, and they're utilizing different skills in order to move to the next station, right? So maybe I was thinking like, if you do a scavenger hunt for accessing information, they have to access or find information in one area, which would then give them the clue whether they need to get to the next station. So accessing information, and then maybe completing different tasks before you move on to the next. So a scavenger hunt is an awesome idea. Thanks, Sierra. What other ways can you get students out of their chairs and practicing skills? What do you think?
You could have.
Well, let's see. So I saw Alicia, I saw Shane, and maybe somebody else. Let's go Shane, and then I'll get Alicia.
Okay, so I know in my high school, I don't know if any other high schools did it, but whenever like drugs and alcohol in high school, we had the drunk goggles. And
okay,
they would have us like walk, like, and I guess you would say in between like cones or chairs to see like what it felt like. And it was like just kind of like an experience thing.
Right. So Shane, it's hard to hear you a little bit, but I think I got what you said. Where
Oh,
you had
sorry.
the drunk goggles, right? So
Yeah.
it's more of an experience and like an activity, but you weren't just taught that, you know, getting drunk makes you feel this way on a bulleted slide. but rather you
Yeah.
experienced it, right? You're saying with those drunk goggles. And so
Yeah.
that helped you obtain knowledge in a different way, right? Like you were like, oh, wow, this is really what that is like, right?
Yeah.
Good. So that's another example. So utilizing different tools and resources like that to really help students understand information in a different way. So cool, Shane. Alicia, you had one.
So like ours would be like they would have us just stand up out of our chairs and they would do an exercise and we'd have to mimic it, like jumping jacks or like jogging in place or something like that. And we just do the exercise out of our chair.
Okay, so that's a cool idea. Excuse me, that sounds more like a brain break. So something to kind of get you engaged, make sure that you're active and you're participating. But what I'm looking at here though is more of those skills like communication skills, refusal skills, negotiation skills, those health skills, right? So what goal setting, like how can we get students to practice those health skills that we were looking at? Brandon, you had your hand raised, right?
Yeah, we went on a lot of field trips, kind of like what Shane said with like the drunk goggles and stuff. We would like do like a lot of like hands-on things. So we would see like a lot of examples and stuff like that. And then we would get like feedback from like different nurses or like doctors and like scenarios where they like had to do something.
Okay, so yeah, that was like a really that was like a lot of ideas, right? So maybe you would speak to or interview nurses or doctors about certain things or to obtain information. You had mentioned there's a lot of stuff that you mentioned in that one. Oh, the field trips, right? So now you're seeing what's available in the community, or even a field trip around the school. Like go check out the nurse's office, see what she has to offer. Go talk to the counseling center and see what they have to offer. Talk to the guidance counselors and see what they have to offer. Things like that, right? So thank you, Brandon. Travis, go ahead.
I don't think I've ever done anything like this, but one thought I had about a standard of communication, finding common ground between people is you have everyone stand up, you present some kind of topic that is generally divisive, and you have the class split up into one camp and the other camp. Then you say, this is your camp, these are your friends, and get them comfortable. Then you introduce a new topic, everyone splits up again. Presumably the group should be mixed. Then you do that a few times. You say, see, it actually didn't matter. A lot of you were in everyone's camp.
Okay, so right, it sounds almost like a debate type of a thing in a way, right? Yeah, but so there's a lot of things you can teach there. So we talked last class about teachable moments, right? There's a lot of things that you can explore in doing that as well as you make sure that it's always professional. The students are always communicating in a professional way. But communication, they can probably talk about how to communicate differing ideas and perspectives during that, while also appreciating and valuing other people's input, right? Active listening skills, like you can target a lot of different skills in doing something like you had just mentioned. So everyone's up, they're out of their chair, they're actually practicing that skill. They're not just watching the teacher talk about, this is active listening and this is how you do it. They're actually practicing. So tell me this, we talked a little bit about feedback this morning. Tell me what's important, what are some important teacher behaviors? What does a teacher need to do? If these students are practicing these skills, what does the teacher need to constantly be doing to be making sure that your students are performing these skills the right way?
Providing like constant descriptive feedback.
Right, providing constant descriptive feedback. So tell me how a lot of these same behavior management strategies will work in your health classrooms too. So back to the wall, right? Make sure that you're always engaging your students. Active monitoring. Alicia, you said that one earlier, that the teachers are going around to all the groups and making sure that they're practicing these skills appropriately. They're communicating effectively. They're working together effectively. They're providing feedback. If you're not using the right steps for decision-making skills or communication skills, that the teacher is going around and helping to give that feedback and help those students progress their skills. So these skills are when you teach these skills, it's almost the same as when you teach them in phys ed. You teach how to do the skills and then the students practice doing that skill, right? Then the teacher is active monitoring and you give a lot of opportunity to learn, a lot of time to practice, just those skills. So it's very similar as you would teach in physical education. It's just a different type of skill, right? Do you see that?
Go ahead,
Trav.
I would say one key difference between modeling in health and PE is in PE you get the first chance to demonstrate, and then maybe you'll like stop everything to demonstrate again in the future. But in a health class, you can constantly be modeling the correct behavior, because you're not going to get your students to believe you that active listening and communication is important if you're constantly interrupting them and belittling their input as the teacher. You have to model what you want.
Right. I love that you said that. So you're getting into that those effective teacher behaviors, right? So that the teacher is a role model of those skills that they're saying is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you're teaching about bike safety, right? And riding your helmet. And then over the weekend, you see your teacher who has no helmet on and is riding in the middle of the street and not, where they're supposed to be. And you're like, what? Miss Fisher's not even following, her own advice. Right. So you want to make sure that you're role modeling. So I like how you touched on effective teaching behaviors. Has to do with being a good role model as well. Awesome. So let's go, I'm going to go back to this PowerPoint. So ways that you don't teach or is not recommended to be teaching health education, these skills in particular, is death by PowerPoint. Death by PowerPoint, just lecturing about how to do skills is not going to get students to a place where they can actually be practicing the skills. So we want our students practicing these skills. And this chart is something you're going to see. So everybody, I just want to double check. You can see my PowerPoint screen share, right? Check out my PowerPoint screen share. If your eyes are looking down and you're laughing, I'm assuming that you're actually not looking at my PowerPoint, which means that when you're confused on your homework and your lesson plans and your final exam, then it makes sense to me, right? Okay, so looking at this PowerPoint slide, you can see step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And basically, this is how you're going to teach those skills. So do you remember the levels of complexity? Levels of complexity when you're teaching physical education, you start with the discrete skills and then combinations of skills, and then you move up to more small-sided games. I want you to consider these to be similar to that. You would start with step 1, discussing the importance of the skill that you're teaching, let's say decision-making. Talk about its relevance and how it relates to other skills that the students may have. In step 2, you're going to present steps for the development of the skills. So you're going to actually tell them step 1 of decision-making skills, step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 5. So teach those skills. In step 3, you're going to model that skill. So after teaching the steps, you're going to model it. You're going to demonstrate what that looks like. In step 4, you're going to practice that skill using real life situations or scenarios. So keep it relevant to the age level learner that you're teaching. If you're teaching 3rd grade, only talk about real life scenarios that a 3rd grader might actually be engaged in. So after modeling and demonstrating that skill, you're going to practice that skill. So give them situations and practice situations that they can practice using that skill. And then step 5, provide feedback and reinforcement. So that comes to the teacher, active monitoring and providing feedback, circulating the room, and making sure your students are participating in those skills in the appropriate way. So these steps, so notice step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, when we write our first lesson plan, which you're gonna do a bit of tonight for homework, you're going to write them in this manner. It's going to say step 1, you're going to describe the importance of learning whatever skill you're writing about. Step 2, you're going to present the demonstration of the steps. So you're going to list step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, however many steps. In step 3, you're going to describe to me how you're going to model that skill. So how you are going to demonstrate that skill in front of your students. Step 4 is going to ask you how you're going to have your students practice using a real life situation. So you'll have to come up with some type of practice situation. And then step 5, you're going to talk about how the teacher is going to provide feedback and reinforcement to students who might be practicing that skill inappropriately or inadequately. Okay, so these 5 steps are part of your lesson planning, and you'll see them. This helps to make sure that you're teaching the skills. So let me check the time here. 12:48. We have a half an hour. Let me see something here. I want to see how we can best use our time today. Right. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do another breakout room activity. Okay. So I'm going to give you a hint. For this breakout room activity, you can go on our D2L page. On our D2L page, you're going to see a document that is called the Benes Alperin Skill Queue, and I'll screen share so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You see this down here at the bottom, this document says PDF document. Shake your head, do you see my screen down here? All right, so that's gonna be a document that's gonna help you with your homework. All right, so it's on that document, open it up. It's gonna list out the cues and the critical elements for teaching these different skills, like communication skills, accessing information skills, decision-making skills. It's gonna help you, it provides all that information. In breakout rooms, I'm gonna assign you the breakout rooms again, and I want you and your group to target that skill. So the skills that you need in that standard that you have, I want you to come up with a bunch of the steps that you need to do that skill. So in these breakout rooms, I'm gonna just rename them. You're gonna be in the same breakout rooms you were before, but I'm giving you a new skill set. So in that skill set, when you get that skill set, I want you, so say the first one's decision-making skills. Go and find out whether it's in that document, or if it's not in that document, go on Google and say, what are the steps to completing this skill? Then we're gonna come back and we're gonna share all of that in the chat. So right now, let's take maybe a 2-minute break again. I'm renaming our breakout rooms, and it's gonna be titled a skill. Your job is to find out what are the steps of that skill. Okay, we'll have a few minutes. You can use that document I just showed you. If it's not in that document, go online. Perhaps you can find it on the Shape America website or Google, but find a few steps for how to complete or perform that skill. Those would be the skills that are the steps that you would teach in your health lesson plan. So why don't we meet back at 11:52. We have 2 minutes, and I'm gonna have us ready to go for breakout rooms. All right, do we have everybody back? Let me see these cameras on. In 30 seconds, please, cameras back on, you are back. Awesome. All right, so what we're doing, I renamed our groups to be a skill. What I want you to do is use that document that I mentioned and or the internet to come up with a set of skills. Imagine you were teaching that skill. How would you teach that skill to your students? Usually a skill will have no more than 5 or 6 steps, so try to keep it short and simple. Again, we are actually going to share these into the chat once we get back to our main room, so make sure that one of you has them written down, typed up, so that you can easily share them when it comes time. I did try to change up the rooms a little bit, so hopefully that's nice for you. And make sure that you introduce yourself. If you don't, you might be put with somebody that you're unfamiliar with, so make sure you introduce yourself so that you know who each other is. Let's see, we'll do 5 minutes, come back to the main room if you need me, and we'll see how it goes. So again, get those steps for the skills, and I'll see you in a bit. Any questions? All right, here we go. Uh-oh. What am I doing here? Why are we? Okay, some of us don't have a room. You guys don't have a room. Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, we kind of got disconnected.
I see that. I'm sending you. Bye. Who needs somebody? Travis, are you there?
So I think we're just
alone for a minute.
Travis, I'm so sorry to interrupt to both of you. Travis, I'm sorry. You had the 2 names and I had them in 2 different places, so I'm sorry for just totally not even letting you know that I was switching you.
It's okay.
All right, so you guys are decision-making skills. Cool?
So we need to come up with the steps to teach decision making.
Absolutely, absolutely. I
Okay.
recommend you look through that document I said first because I'm pretty sure it's in there, and if not, then go to Google. Okay?
Okay.
Yep. See you in a few. Hi.
Hey, we were just confused. We wanted to make sure we're doing it right.
Go ahead. What do you have?
Well, that's it. So we were trying to read the worksheet and it's like out of order. So we're getting confused.
What do you mean? So you have effective communication?
Yeah, so we said that we would do standard 4 communication. But is that wrong?
So I want you to tell me, what are the steps for effective communication? How would you teach me what effective communication is?
Okay. Okay, I'm good. We're good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. I'll see you in a few.
Thank you.
Yeah. Analyzing influences, I think. Yeah. Hi, you need
Hello.
Yeah.
Cool. What do we need help with?
What we're kind of finding, like we're on the page here on D2L,
Right.
and you said find a skill, correct?
You're on D2L. Did you download that? It says Benes Alperin skill cues. Did you download that document?
I'm on the
Yeah,
PDF.
it says like it has like the access thing on it. It says, is it accurate? Is it credible? Stuff like that.
Yep, exactly. So your skill is analyzing influences. So there should be, in that PDF, there should be one that talks about analyzing influences. Do you
Yeah.
see it?
Right under standard 2.
Oh, I see it.
Yep, exactly. So you basically, that's how you would teach that skill. First, you would identify the influence, then you analyze the influence, and those are some questions you might ask your students. Then you examine the factors and the impact of those influences, and then you consider some type of an action plan. So those are your 4 steps. And each of those little questions, within there, are things that you would, probe your students with in order to really get at that step. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So you found what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right,
There you
thank
go, Nate. So I see you typing it. Nate, as you do that, as you're typing them,
I tried to list all of them, but I hit enter to try to.
oh, you know what? Shift and enter gets you to the next line without sending it.
Yeah.
But also, if you could, before you do that, is write analyze influences and then type your steps.
Okay.
Okay. And you know what? To be simple, you might be able to copy and paste from the document. You might.
Yeah, that might be easier.
All right, I'm gonna head back to the main room. Okay, I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, those of us that are back, do we have our skill steps listed out, ready to be typed and sent? Yes? Does anybody have a question that's here? Okay. So
Carol.
basically, oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry, go ahead.
Asking Carol because I was in a group with her. Do you
Okay,
want?
go ahead.
What's up?
Do you want to send the what we had said, or do you want me to?
If you have it typed up, that might be easier. I wrote mine down.
Yeah, did you write yours down, Brandon?
Yeah, I did.
All right, I'm giving whoever's left 1 more minute to wrap up. So those of you that are here, be sure that you have your skill steps kind of ready to go. So what I want you to do, if you were, say, for example, decision-making skills, you're going to type into the chat, type decision-making skills, and then step 1, 2, 3, 4, however many you have. If you need help when you're typing into the chat, do it to everyone so everyone has it. But to get to that next line without sending it, if you press shift and enter at the same time, or shift first and then enter, it brings you to the next line without sending your whole message. Okay, so that might help. Good, so right now Sierra just did effective communication. So you see it says effective communication and then she has her steps listed there. Good, so everyone's kind of sending theirs, perfect. All right, so let me get, I'm going to send these to everybody come back. Let's see if they got that. All right, I'm just going to kick those guys out. So they might be a little confused when they come on back. Oh, looks like they got it. Okay. All right, looks like we have everybody here. So what we have started, for those of you who just kind of came back right now, what I want for us to do, if you haven't done this yet already, is in the chat, I want you to tell me your skill, the skill that you looked up, And then, so type the skill. So for example, the last one was advocate, and then the steps that you would do in order to advocate for something. If you had decision making, you to write decision making, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and you're going to kind of identify those steps that you would teach to be a good decision maker. All right, and so you can put that right into the chat. Do it to everyone so everybody has access to these. Did anybody have trouble finding one that wasn't in the document? So which of these skills, not all of them were in that document, which of these skills were not in that document? Who had to search on Google? Noah, did you? What skill did you have?
The decision-making one.
Decision making. Okay, so decision making you had to find online. Nice job. Thank you. Travis, did you raise your hand too?
Well, yeah, we were the same group.
In the same group. Okay. Wow. So you're muted on one pane, but not the other. That was weird. Nope, you're good. I got you. Decision making. All right, good stuff. So right now you have just a preview of these different steps. So, but basically when you're teaching these skills, if you have decision making in your lesson plan, whatever it is, make sure that you teach those steps to your students, and then you also then model it, allow the students to practice, and then give that feedback. So just like we saw in that diagram on our PowerPoint slide. Right, so what you'll do, make sure you see my PowerPoint slides right now. Shake your head. Do you see my PowerPoint slides? Great. So first, step 1 in the lesson plan template, you'll see you're going to discuss the importance of maybe decision making if that's your skill. Step 2, present those steps that you just told me, those steps that you just listed in the chat. Model that skill for step 3. Step 4, get the students practicing that skill, and then step 5. Describe how you as the teacher will give feedback and reinforcement for the anybody who may be having trouble with that skill. Okay, so that was just a preview of us getting us ready to understand that each of these skills that we're teaching within the standards have a set number of steps, and that you would teach those steps and then allow students to practice. So getting back to how we teach health, so remember it's that skills-based health. Try to stay away from too much lecture, because lecture doesn't help students to practice. Try to spend no more than 15 minutes of instruction in one type of a format. Again, we want our students up and moving around and interacting. So maybe like about 15 minutes worth of some type of a game, then switch it up and maybe do some group work, or maybe a little bit of lecture, a little bit of video. So really try to change it up across your class is basically what we're saying. So making sure that your students are up, they're engaged, and it's not just lecture based. So we'll talk a little bit more about different methods for teaching next week in terms of getting into different games that you might be able to use or teach, or different types of group work, things like that. When you're teaching health lesson plans, also please focus on building health skills. As we know, those skills based. Look at these bullet points. Instruction is not the pouring of knowledge into one's head like lecture. Like you can't just like fill someone's head or mind or brain with this information. That's not a skill. You're having the content in your brain is one thing, but being able to utilize that skill and apply that skill and make those choices, that's what we want. We want them to be able to do that. So instruction is not just pouring knowledge into your brain like lecture style. It's working on skills, but it's also not, look at this little scary dude over here. It's also not teaching just like the scary aspects, like what can happen. So has anybody in their health education, their sex education classes seen that labor and delivery video of like somebody literally like having a baby? You seen that video? Has anybody ever seen that video? Have you heard about people having to watch that video? That's to scare you. It's a scare tactic. It's like, oh my God, look, this is so crazy. This is how, or like, showing pictures about like what meth heads look like, right? So that's a scare tactic. And it might work for some people, but it's not the best way. Like, it's not the best way to teach using these scare tactics. Instead, teach about the skills that one can use and the importance of using those skills in a manner that isn't like, do this or you're going to die kind of type of way. Try to stay away from those scare tactics is basically the point here. So try not to lecture, try not to use scare tactics, try mostly to get students engaged in practice. And then make sure it's fun and interactive. So if you're planning that students can be interacting and practicing these skills with each other, with their friends in the class, and it's a safe environment, it's going to be fun and interactive. They're going to come into health and they're going to be engaging themselves with others in immersing themselves in this content with these different skills. So it will be fun and interactive. So again, we're going to get more in detail with this next class, varying your instructional formats. But basically, we kind of touched on this already. What are different ways that you have done different maybe project type things or different types of group work in your health classes? So we mentioned going on field trips and going around the room, hanging posters around the class, going on scavenger hunts. We talked about a little bit about doing scenarios or skits, maybe some role playing type stuff to help our students practice skills. So those are a bunch of really good examples that we've discussed today. And this link here that you'll see on my PowerPoint, Alternatives to Dreaded Lecture, will bring you to a document, which I actually I'm going to share my screen and show it to the D2L. These are different methods here. So when you're doing your lesson planning tonight, if you're having a hard time coming up with cool ideas to teach, you can click on this document here. See, it says 57 alternatives to lecturing. All right, so those are different cool project-based, skill-based activities that you can use to teach. But we're gonna get in more detail of that next week when we teach more so about how to teach health education. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit. So tell me here, look at this quiz, health knowledge quiz. This is the knowledge quiz. True or false, wearing a seatbelt can reduce the risk of being seriously hurt or killed in a car accident. Is this teaching our students, what is this measuring? Is this measuring our students' knowledge or measuring their skills? Somebody pop on and tell me.
Knowledge.
Right, knowledge. I mean, it was kind of hinted at the top, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah, knowledge. So true or false? So true or false, wearing a seatbelt is important. True or false, that's a knowledge. Yes, I know this or I don't know this. Abuse of cigarettes or alcohol or other tobacco products can have a negative effect on your health. True or false? That's knowledge. Yes, I know this or I don't know this. It's true, I think that's true, or I think that's false. What we want to move to in terms of measuring our students' learning is a health behavior quiz. Okay, we're looking to measure their health behavior. So check this one out. Rather than asking true or false that a seatbelt's important, now we want to look at, I wear a seatbelt every time I ride in a car. Yes or no. So do I engage in this behavior or not? That's a skill, the skill of wearing your seatbelt. The next one, I do not misuse cigarettes, alcohol, or other drugs. That's a skill. They need skills, right? So refusal skills, decision-making skills, maybe problem-solving skills. So this is measuring their actual behavior as opposed to just their knowledge. And what we want to do here overall in health education is change behavior, right? We want to definitely give knowledge, but change that behavior. Funny little picture here. We have our little minion here, health behavior gap, right? So the patient says, the problem is not that obesity runs in our family. And the doctor says, no, the problem is that no one runs in your family, right? So again, just kind of targeting the knowledge of obesity, but the problem here is this, it's a skill based, right? So it's a skill, it's performance is, you may know that running is important for obesity, but the what we're looking at here is the skills and their performance, and that we can utilize that information in a healthy manner. So I just want to show you real quick, not much time, I want to get us out of here before we move on. So I want to address the what we do have coming up for homework, and then anything that we didn't really get through today, we'll get through next week as well. But for homework, so you're going to compile those steps in one document, upload onto D2L. So if you were smart right now, I would look at the chat and see everyone compiled those skills, the important skills. It's not all of them, all right? So when you go to this document, the skill steps on our D2L page, there's several more skills listed there, but already your peers have done the work for some of them. what I recommend you do is don't necessarily just trust your peers and maybe double check that the skill steps that they're listing are appropriate. But basically, this document will show you it'll say decision making or communication styles, whatever it is, and your job then is to list out all of those skills, just like we just did in the groups, for all the steps to completing those skills. Okay, so you'll see that up on D2L. Here's a screenshot of our D2L page. You can see it's listed at the bottom there, homework steps for health skills. So download that document and type in the steps for each of those skills. The next one you're going to work on is a lesson plan. So we're going to start this. This is not going to be graded. We're going to finish it up together in class next week with working on that lesson plan. But I've typed a bunch of prompts into the lesson plan to help you get thinking. So follow along with my red text in that lesson plan template. And then we'll work on that in greater detail for next week. But I do need you to have something submitted before class on Tuesday, so I know that you've actually been working toward working on this lesson plan. So you're going to be working on that health lesson plan as well. And then anybody who hasn't already turned in the video analysis too, which was working on the classroom management, that is going to be due next week as well, only because I messed up the date. So again, you'll find that one in your week 9. So look up on my screen share here. Under week 10, our homework, as always, is listed right there for you. The 3 things is the skill steps, the lesson plan for health, and the video analysis too. And so that's going to be what we have due for next week. Next week, we're going to be getting into more health-related skills, teacher behaviors, that lesson planning in greater detail for health, and looking at some of that stuff. So are there any questions for me right now? If anybody has trouble accessing any of the videos that we have on D2L, all of the videos that we need now from here on out are going to be only embedded into D2L. If you have a hard time getting that, just reach out to me through email and I'll be able to share with you maybe a different format. Maybe on OneDrive is usually what I'll send. Alrighty, so reach out if you have any questions. Anybody who has any issues with the lesson plans or has any questions about your grades or any of the feedback I gave, go ahead and stay on here and I can help you out with any of that. Alrighty, questions for me? All right, thanks so much, guys, and welcome to Health Education, and I'll see you next week. Alrighty?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. All right, so let's see. I know a few of us want to get some help with lesson plan stuff, so that's awesome. I appreciate you staying on. Brandon, what's up?
So after like watching that lesson, I like saw like a lot of things that I really didn't like, and like one of the main things on the lesson was like the safety, and I was like had like trouble finding, like the only thing I really heard her say was like don't throw the like balls or anything at peers, and like don't run into the net or anything like that. But there was like a lot of like red flags for like safety in that lesson.
So you're talking about the throwing video, right?
Yeah.
Good. So that throwing video was where we were addressing, we were writing a lesson plan, right? So you were writing your lesson plan based off of that one, right?
Yeah.
So at the bottom of that lesson plan template, I asked you to kind of reflect. Did you reflect on those things?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're spot on. I mean, so some of these people, they're beginning teachers. They're not actual teachers yet, so they're still learning. So a lot of that stuff would get addressed, you know, after your teaching experience. You would meet with, you know, your mentor teacher or a supervisor or somebody, and you would probably discuss a lot of those things. But it's really good news that you're picking up on that now, because that means that maybe when it comes time for you to teach, that you'll, you know, make sure to address some of those things. But I'm glad you're picking up on it.
And also, I was just curious about like, is the reason why we have like the psychomotor, cognitive, and affective objectives, is that because of like the standards, or because like in my in 300, like, we really like don't dive too deep into detail with like cognitive and affective. It's just like whatever the standard is, like write your objectives about that. So I was just curious because like it's kind of hard to think of like the cognitive affective ones, especially like am I just making them up for that, or like am I going to like use examples from the video? Because I was just having trouble with that too. But other than that, like I got everything else.
Oh, so you're talking still about that, about the throwing video?
Yeah, and I mean, like I had like 3 different standards because like it was talking about like different parts of the body and stuff like that, and like moving and exercising and stuff. So I definitely think it was more than one standard, but I just
Well,
think
so
that it
think
was
her
good.
main topic. So I said you're not completely wrong, right? So you're also thinking about with, because she was teaching about like the arteries and the veins and that
Yeah.
stuff, but her main skill that she was teaching in phys ed was throwing, right? So she was teaching throwing by using these different things as like a cool way to kind of get a little bit of health content maybe in the students. So focus on the throwing. So for the psychomotor objective, focus on throwing. So that's going to be your standard 1, right? Is your, your demonstration of that skill throwing. Your cognitive is focusing on those cues that are necessary, which I think she asks. She asks the student in her closure to identify the cues that are needed for throwing the right way. So that would be your cognitive. And then the affective, she mentioned something about working nicely with peers. So with the psychomotor, the cognitive, and affective, they are based off the standards, but also during a lesson, it's important that you teach the skill physically, that you also assess the skill that the student knows how to do the skill in their own mind. So maybe I'm not as good throwing physically actually, but I know how to kind of. And then the affective are those, the valuing, the appreciation, the group work, the social interaction, the sportsmanship, kind of how to work collaboratively with others. So you're going to pull those from the video. So pull them, and what I think I hinted to you, you can find those best in her closure because she didn't introduce them into the introduction like she should have.
Yeah. So am I wrong for saying there's 3 standards in that lesson, or is there only 1?
Well, what were the other 2 that you used? Is this information helping everybody else too to kind of review psychomotor, cognitive, affective a little bit? Okay. So Brandon, you find that
I'd standard 1, 4 and 5.
4 and 5. So standard 5, especially for your affective domain, your affective standard, your affective objective, I'm sorry. Yeah, that would work. Standard 4, personal social responsibility, right? So yeah, if you mention, you can list those standards, especially if you're mentioning them in your objectives.
Yeah, I mean, I just said that because they're working with others and like they're trying to like achieve a goal and stuff.
Right.
And they have to like, they can't be throwing stuff at each other and stuff like that. So.
Right. I think you're spot on. And so what I'll do too is I have your lesson plan. So as I'm grading it, if I see anything that's kind of inconsistent, I'll make note of it and send it to you so that you can kind of use that feedback for your future lessons. Sound good?
All right. Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it. Thanks for popping on.
Yeah, I walked out of work today, so I'm done there.
Oh, geez. All right. We'll talk about that. Oh, geez. All right. So Isaac, what's going on?
I just about like the emails and everything. I did what you said yesterday. Like I searched up your name and I hit like make a rule that I get all of your messages, and I still haven't gotten anything.
Okay, so I didn't send anything out yet, but how about this? I'm gonna send an email right now that says test. How's that? And you can tell me if you got it or not. So
Okay.
hang on, give me a sec here. Who else is on here? Dylan, what's up?
I just have a quick question about my video analysis.
Okay, one sec then. All right, so let's see. Isaac, I just sent a test email. It says test, I think, and I just got it. So did you get it? Double check your email. Dylan, you just got it. Sweet. That's great. That makes me happy. So Isaac, you want to check to see if you got that. Dylan, what was your question for the video analysis? You said video analysis?
Yeah, I just accidentally uploaded my blank document and not the filled out document.
All right, so just go ahead and upload. You can upload multiple submissions, so go ahead and upload your correct document.
Okay, yeah, I just did. I just wanted to like kind of like let you know. In a
Thank
way.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
One thing that helps with that is that when I download that document, I can see when that document was edited or like when you created it. So especially if that is before the deadline, like if it says that you did this document before the deadline, then it'll be fine.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks for, yeah, no, thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. Have a good one, Dylan. Isaac, did you get it?
I did not.
You did not.
Yeah.
All right, Isaac. We so why don't you search your email as well? So search Jenna Fisher in your email. Search my name in your email and see if that helps.
I got your test email, by the way.
You did? Cool. Noah,
Yeah,
did
I
you get
got
it? Good, good, good. So you know what, Isaac? Also, what email address do you have? You can check. What email do you have in
I have the it's like IT956016 at Westchester UPA.
All right, so that's good. I can't even find you on my list right now. Huh. Hang on a second. Isaac. Noah and Ryan, I appreciate you guys hanging for a sec. Okay, so hang on. All right, let me see this. Hang on one sec here. All right, Isaac, let me know if that changed because I just pressed a different button. All right, so Noah and Ryan, why don't we pull up our lesson plans? We're gonna work on lesson planning, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's pull up our lesson plan so we can kind of get into that for a little bit together.
I think I did better on the lesson plan too because the one girl in our class, I forgot her name, Alicia. She FaceTimed me last night and helped me. So
Awesome.
So I understood that one better, but that was also different than the lesson plan one because it was like watching the video and writing it based on that.
So did you find it easier, Ryan, to write based on watching a video, or was that harder?
I thought it was easier because I understood it better, but the lesson plan one, I just really struggled. Like I spent a lot of time on it, so.
I believe that. The lesson plans take a lot of time. And Noah, you probably agree, right? The lesson planning is really hard. Noah, did you get to watch, did you do the lesson plan 2 yet? I'm just trying to remember.
No, not all of it yet.
Okay, that it might be easier, like you said, Ryan. I'm glad that you said it's easier because you can actually see like what is actually happening in the classroom, right? So you can see like how you're doing that. Does that make sense, Ryan? Right? Like why do you feel, Ryan? Why do you feel like it was easier to watch the video and then do the lesson?
Well, I mean, I kept going back and forth trying to find where I needed to find it. So I just thought that was easier because it was like in the video of where to find it. Like, and I knew it was there.
Like, because I put the timestamps?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay, so then, so hang on one sec with the lesson plan stuff. Isaac, did you get it now?
Yeah, I got that one.
You did. Okay, so you know what? More so that's a problem on my part. So when I'm sending out an email, I have to like press a certain button to make sure it's getting to everybody. So that's my fault and not yours.
Okay.
And I deeply apologize. And that means there's 3 of you that probably are never getting my emails. So I'm a bad teacher and I'm really sorry. Do you forgive me?
It's all good. Yeah.
All right. So I'm glad that you asked any questions that you needed anyways, in order to get the information that you needed. But moving forward, if you are confused, just keep emailing me and I'll make sure that you get my emails too. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Sorry about that.
Also, I didn't realize that there was like the sample lesson plan on there. So that helped me last night as well when I was going through because I was like looking off of that to make sure I was doing the stuff right.
Okay, good. So the sample lesson plan helped you, right? It kind of probably helped you figure out how to say stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then watching the lesson plan or watching that actual video maybe helped you to understand like when the teacher actually says these things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then Ryan, so you just did lesson plan 2. What other questions do you have for the lesson plan? Like which parts of the lesson plan are giving you trouble?
I'll find it probably. I mean, I was struggling a lot with the critical elements, but then that's what she actually helped me with last night. Now I kind of know that better, but I don't know what she told me is actually like, I think I know how to do it now, but like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
on your feedback, I got a 0 out of 6 on that. That was by far the worst one. So I really don't know what I did wrong there.
On the critical elements?
Yeah.
Okay, so then tell me this. So for lesson plan, well, for either one. So lesson plan 1, that was for serving a volleyball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys remember that? So do you remember, I mean, even in the health lesson today, we talked about the steps to performing that skill. So that's exactly what I want for the critical elements in physical education. So tell me specifically, step 1, to serve a volleyball, what do I need to do first? Right, so if you're gonna teach me how to serve a volleyball, what's the first thing you're gonna tell me to do?
You're gonna hold the volleyball on.
Okay, so I'm gonna do underhand or you want me to do overhand?
I do underhand.
Yeah, I go
Underhand, right? So step 1, hold the volleyball in your non-dominant hand at your waist height. Step 2, make a fist with your striking arm, right?
So it's
Check
just
your
literally
feet.
the movement of it. That's what the critical elements.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because on my critical elements I have it pulled up for lesson plan 1. I wrote like demonstrate how to serve a volleyball and then build on the technique. So that was wrong. So
I need to see what I wrote to get
I get why I got that wrong now.
Right, exactly. And so Noah, I think that maybe you had the same thing. You were kind of talking about what the teacher should do instead of literally how to serve a volleyball.
Yeah, I need to find that.
So then, Ryan, when you were doing lesson plan 2, were you able to pull out the critical elements based on what the teacher was saying, how to perform a skill?
Yeah, so I'll pull up what I wrote for that. I wrote, because she said it right in the video. So I wrote face sideways, step front foot, bring arm up to ear, throw forward, release ball.
That was for the throwing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for critical elements, I said make sure the class can see and then demonstrate how to do it and then tell the kids why this serve is important. And I didn't describe it at all, so I see why I got a 0.
Yeah, right. So I just want you to tell me exactly how to do the skill. Exactly how to do the skill. So, and when, in the affective domain, like if your objective says, have good sportsmanship, right? The student will be able to demonstrate good sportsmanship with other classmates. Your critical elements then for that would be under, sportsmanship, and describe what the student can do and demonstrate to demonstrate good sportsmanship. So maybe they're positively communicating with other students. Maybe they are, they're not getting frustrated, during gameplay. They are using, good communication skills with their partners. They're giving high fives to their partners, whatever, so tell me specifically what you're looking for sportsmanship. So for each of those objectives, you should have critical elements that describe how to do what you say you want your students to do. That makes sense?
So that's how you write an objective, because that's the other thing I did bad on.
So the objective, student will be able to.
And then whatever the verb is. So like if it's psychomotor, it'll be demonstrate, cognitive, explain, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then that next part would be the product. So student will be able to demonstrate serving a volleyball to open space.
I feel more comfortable with the lesson plans now. After the first one, I should have told you from the start that I was a little iffy about it, but then I was like, I'll wait and see what I get. And then I was like, okay, I didn't do good on it. So
right.
then,
So good. Well, no, Ryan. So you're right. I mean, you're doing, you're doing things the right way. Okay. So, and you reached out eventually. Do you feel like going back and fixing your lesson plan 1, do you feel like that would be something that would help you?
I probably should honestly fix it just so I can use it as a study tool.
Right.
Yeah,
so you too, Noah?
Yeah, because I did not do well.
Right. So then why don't you guys both do this? So because my main focus here is that you learn. Okay, it's not to give you this overall grade that's gonna, whatever. It's that you learn. So if you both feel like redoing your lesson plan 1 will help you after getting my feedback and after maybe watching the recordings again, then go ahead and do that. Send them to me in email and I'll regrade them for you. Okay, but do an honest effort, do a good job trying to really, get back and figure out, what you need to figure out to make sure that, you're spending your time wisely, because it'll be really helpful for you and then it'll improve your grade. But do this too, if you're finding like, that you have a hiccup during it, you're confused, you don't remember how to do something, you're not quite sure how to find, what you need, email me, shoot me an email and say, oh my gosh, I completely forget how to do a psychomotor assessment. I completely forget. I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you help me? And I can help you. All right. So shoot me that email and let me know how I can help you. And I'm always here. Okay.
Can I submit that tomorrow? Because I have work tonight, so I don't think I could do both of those today.
Yeah, no, not a problem. So with the both of you, actually, what I was planning on doing, I'll give you the opportunity to do this, to fix your lesson plan 1, and you can submit it to me before next Tuesday. So you have a 1 whole week. You have all the way till next Tuesday. Take your time, do a good job to make sure that you're really learning from it. Okay, so until next Tuesday.
And that the one due today, it already said it's late. So am I gonna get points off for that for being late?
Did you just submit it now?
No, because I'm gonna do it after this class.
Oh, you're gonna do it now.
Right after this. Yeah.
Right. So no. What I want you to do though is not rush through it. Okay. So I really want you to make sure you know what you're doing. So make sure that you spend a good amount of time.
Yeah, I have the next 4 hours free, so.
Okay, so maybe watch those videos again to just let you know what you're doing before you get into it, right? So you don't make the same mistakes again. So then Noah, you and I can work together and just make sure that you reach out if you have questions, all right?
Okay.
Thank you for staying and helping.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm comfortable in this now.
I that's what I'm here for, and I'm glad that you both reached out, and we're in this together, so please make sure if you have questions, just shoot me an email, okay?
Thank you.
All right, guys, good luck. Reach out if you need anything. I'll chat with you soon.